Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Phaeli. My name is Jordy Rose. I am not our lovely DM, Kevin Parr. However, instead, he is relegated to the bottom right of your screen if you would like to take a look at his sad little, much smaller face.
He's been evicted!
He has been evicted.
I accept it, humbly. Open arms.
We have company down here.
Yeah, there you go. So, I'm going to be taking over the Phaeli. I'm excited to have everybody into the chat. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Also, thank you to Tabletop Santa for subbing right out of the gate. Appreciate you sticking with us and supporting the channel. Announcements to start things off. We'll keep this nice and light. We are going to be doing our subscriber giveaway at the break. Our subscriber giveaway is going to be a session where you're going to be added into a one-shot with our lovely DM Kevin Parr, and he is going to be running that probably at some point the following month. We try to get 6 people involved in one of those and then kind of coordinate a time and day that works for everybody there. Outside of that, we do have our updated merch link, and that is in the bio at the moment. So if you are curious, if you want to take a look at some of the awesome things that we put out, we've got some Dicecream hats, hoodies, shirts, some the King of Fear Bow to the King of Fear t-shirt from the Beyond the Realms campaign. Those are all available in there. We do apologize if we run into any tech issues tonight. It's been a minute since I've been behind the DM screen, and this is a little bit of a different setup from what we did when I used to run things, so we will see how this goes. But for the time being, I believe, with nothing else, unless anybody else has any major stuff that they want to announce.
Jordy's awesome, and he's going to be amazing!
Cool. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hide Kevin for a little bit. So you all can see him later on.
Get out of here.
Jordy Thanatos snapped.
I don't even know you.
So, here we go.
And I'm alone again.
Alrighty. So, last we left off. A bit of a longer intro today to get everyone, myself included, fully caught up on what's happened to the group thus far. Last we left off, the party had gathered in the industrial city of Hupperduke in the Dwendalian Empire, where they quickly found themselves in the path of a jailbreak, as a Goliath charged through the streets with a series of kobolds following close behind. The group managed to waylay the kobolds, but the Goliath slipped past and made a clean escape. And as the kobolds began to fall, one after another, they cried out, "No witnesses!" And an ominous ticking sound emanated from each of their chests, followed quickly by a timed explosion of a clockwork bomb. Following clues from the jailbreak, within the promise of coin, they found the escaped convict, a female Goliath named Skins. The group encountered a man named Washburn Breedlove, a human who was similarly attempting to investigate the situation, but between his demeanor and that of some of the party, Margo, within minutes you found yourself at odds and an ongoing feud began. Leaving Washburn behind, you made your way to a nearby home. More kobolds lay in wait and were dispatched, save for one, a misbegotten soul that lovingly, but sadly temporarily, became known as Speck. This kobold revealed that he and the others came from a location a few hours outside the city within the Silverquell Ridge called the Silver Falls. Under the direction of Watchmaster Bram Gulchswaddle, and I'm pretty sure you never heard his last name, the group was quickly tasked with hunting Skins, which led them up to the peak of the falls. The Goliath was found there with a pack of kobolds and a captive gnomish woman named Nima, but Skins quickly found herself held in the very chains she used to keep the gnome hostage and was returned to the local government of Hupperduke. After the return of the prisoner, the party was introduced to a few prominent, renowned Empire officials. Emma Zezbok, a gnome who currently holds the title of Starosta, kind of like a governor of Hupperduke, as she has for more than 200 years. Hayden Damareg, a human and crown marshal of the Dwendalian Empire's imperial military. He's a respected military mind and an instrumental figure in the current campaign against the Kryn dynasty. And last but certainly not least, Martinet Ludinus Daleth, a powerful half-elf known as the Archmage of Domestic Protection. They are also a senior member of a respected, if mysterious, magical order called the Cerberus Assembly. The party was offered a choice to assist either the Crown Marshal or the Martinet with their duties, and opted to stay out of the path of war, instead siding with the Cerberus Assembly, where Ludinus will provide them tasks when the time comes. However, just as this offer had been accepted, a series of clockwork, machine-like spiders began assaulting the room, and the guards holding Skins were slain, allowing the Goliath to escape once more. Killing the spiders, the party was again tasked with hunting skins down, determining the source of these machine-like creatures, which led them back to the Goliath's hold. Breaking further in, a massive cave system was explored until the group was joined by Washburn as a begrudging ally, and the group endured a final standoff against a massive clockwork mech. Felling the mech, its armor was torn apart to reveal a furious young human girl piloting it from the inside. Doing their best to persuade, intimidate, and even threaten the girl, she provided no useful information and was eventually knocked unconscious to ensure she didn't try to escape. Searching the cavern, a coded journal was discovered, and after a harrowing encounter with a complex bomb, the journal was deciphered to be that of Huron Stalmast, a human engineer previously exiled from Hupperduke. Flipping through part of it, Jules read an outlandish section that described Stalmast's experience with an excavation of a crashed Illithid ship, encountering an exceptionally humanoid warforged individual and gazing through a window to another plane of existence. But with the pain of the day catching up, the party decided it was not time to delve deeper into the journal, and instead opted to leave the caverns, returning to Hupperduke with the girl, and finding out more the following day. However, as they traversed the Silverquell Ridge, battered and bruised, nearing the city once more, a silent figure appeared in their path. Hood up, with a long dark cloak running down to their ankles, the figure slowly removed the shroud, letting it fall to the ground before drawing a long black scimitar. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." And below the cloak, a set of battle-worn yet lustrous gold armor glints in the moonlight, with a red sash tied around the waist. The angular face of a lithe, healthy drow, looking forward before raising the tip of the blade towards you, Jules. "You may choose the name Hendrix now, Juliana, but by the name of the Fowler estate, I have come to bring you home." So, with this figure standing in the path, Jules, in the moonlight, I'm going to get you to make a perception check to start things off.
Me? Oh no. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Jordy, what have I done? What have I done?
I don't know what you've done. That scares me. I got an 11 plus 2.
All right,
so
13. It's good enough. At this distance, you're not exactly far away, only about 50 feet or so, and in the darkness, you're able to make out enough of the features to actually recognize this figure. You recognize them as an individual known as Achaidh, a man who has been employed by your family for the better part of a decade.
Achaidh, have my parents sent you here to collect me?
Word travels fast when one of the family meets the Crown Marshal of the Imperial Military and an Archmage of the Cerberus Assembly in the same day. I travel just as fast.
What exactly do you want with me?
That remains to be seen, young miss.
I need it stated. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I need it stated immediately. Nebula would turn on Divine Sense because some creepy dude is talking to Jules, and he 100% would turn on Divine Sense. That's all I'm going to say here.
Yeah, so you actually did that last session, so you don't have to mark it off. The
Cool.
figure does not appear to ping anything on your Divine Sense. You take a look around, you look at the forest on either side. You can take a look at Roll20 if you'd like. I'm going to pop that up on our screen here so the viewers can see it as well.
Cool.
Nothing within a 60-foot range of where you currently are seems to be pinging with your Divine Sense. So, jumping back, Jules. There have been requests to bring you home to finish your training. However, an agreement can be made if it is in your interest.
That would most certainly be in my interest. I have no desire to return home at this time.
Very well, then. An aptitude test and a task to complete at the request of the family.
I see. What would this aptitude test be?
And you see him take a step forward and sheathe the scimitar, pull off a small pouch from the side of his belt, and opening up the pouch reveals a very small but crystal clear, small flat disc with a diamond, kind of an oval diamond set into the center of it. To test your connections.
Would I recognize this object?
Make a history check.
All right. That's a 9 plus 6.
15.
So 15?
You don't know the exact specifics on what it would do, but you know that this is something you've seen before only be used on individuals who have completed their pact.
Okay.
And he just takes a step forward. Simply place your hand upon it, and we will see how deep your connection runs.
No tricks, right?
I am outnumbered 5-1, Juliana.
Jules will reach her hand out and place it on the disc.
All right, so he'll kind of make his way towards you. Do you move your head away from the group,
as
or
she
wait for him
does
to
that.
come all the way?
Yeah. I move away from the group and kind of gesture to them to stay back.
Before she does, I'll kind of just grab her shoulder and whisper in and say, if you need anything, just give us a sign.
With awakened mind, she'll respond within your head, understood, and then make her way towards him.
Okay. So, closing the gap, he takes a knee, bows his head, raises the disc up to just about where your waist is.
Visible face of disgust when he does that, of uncomfortableness crosses across her face as she places her hand on the disc.
Left hand, please. So as you place your hand and touch the gem to the center of your palm, you feel a sharp pain, but for just a moment. Then the pain is gone, and a shiver runs down your arm from your shoulder as your mind suddenly becomes blank. The regular noise that swirls inside it is silenced. It's peaceful, quiet for once. Then a low buzzing as the noise returns and the disc is pulled down away from your hand. The diamond swirls with streaks of red as you see two clear reflections of men across its surface, and a third figure farther away, out of focus, shifting almost like mist in the background. Unlocking connections slower than your sister, but not slow enough to be of worry. He returns the disc to its pouch. Now for the practical task. And he pulls out a letter, and the letter is stamped excuse me, with a stamped wax seal depicting olive branches encircling a cursive W. He hands the letter.
Okay. She'll take the letter and say, is this for me to open now or later?
You may open it as you choose. I know the contents. It is up to you to decide if you would like to share it with your friends.
Jules will give kind of a wary look back to the group and open the letter.
Okay.
MacLeod will just wave.
No, at this notion of Jules turning back, Margot looks between the two and does like a quick up and down at both before stopping at Jules one last time.
Okay. And the figure that Jules is talking to seems pretty calm. Like, given the situation, given the time of night, given how many people are standing on your side, he doesn't appear to be worried in the slightest.
Jules, however, is very worried and very much on edge.
Alrighty. So, opening up the letter, you read it. And the letter reads, one of your uncles has been involved in a dispute in Felderwin, about 12 days south of here. A pair of killings on advantageous local officials have taken place, and the city's watchmaster is blaming them on a recent arrival, a red dragonborn from the Ashkeeper Peaks. The family reached out to your father, and he has tasked me with resolving the conflict in whatever means I deem necessary. I choose that manner to be you. As you may well have guessed, the family would prefer your return, but allowing you to flourish in the world under some supervision is still an option. And I may be able to appease your family with these results, should you succeed within the month. But the longer it takes, the higher the likelihood that someone else will be dispatched, who lacks my compassionate nature. So you read that inside the letter, and no signature, no heading of any kind, but the very familiar wax seal on the outside.
Jules will just look to how do I pronounce his name again?
Achaidh.
Achaidh, and kind of just hold the letter up and go, I can handle this.
I'm glad to hear it. It should be fun for you.
That's a way of saying it. How will I get in contact with you to let you know that the job is complete?
I found you once. I can do so again.
All right. Jules will kind of take a hesitant few steps back and see if he's gonna head on his way.
You see him taking the cloak and kind of closing it around the armor again, pulling the hood up, and beginning to just make his way past, and he's going to walk towards the right side of all of you, kind of down the path away from the city of Hupperduke. So he is going to actually walk towards all of you.
I'm going just
You do be shuffling along.
past.
Yeah, as he looks past, Margot doesn't move her head, but her eyes definitely follow him.
And you see him kind of
I
look.
100% look him up and down to memorize his form. 100%.
No.
So you see kind of a little bit past shoulder length, very stark white hair, darker blue-black, purple-black skin, definitely a little bit lighter than some drow, kind of a little bit closer to Jules in terms of the skin tone, but overall very lithe. For a drow especially, you can see that there are a few more muscles than you would normally expect to see. Normally kind of a dexterous race. The figure does definitely look to have a very strong musculature to him.
Okay.
Right, so he makes his way off.
As he disappears out of sight, Jules's hands are just going to glow the sickly green-blue color that they do, and she's going to fire out some eldritch blasts at the ground in rage and go, I wanted to avoid this exact situation.
What situation?
My family, I wanted to avoid them.
That I can appreciate, but is this something you should be worried about? Or we should be worried about?
It's none of your concerns.
He seemed nice.
Sure.
Even with his niceties, it seems as if Juliana is a little shook up about it.
I think Jules has a right to be shook when somebody tracks them down like that.
By no means is it an easy thought.
Yes, and I would prefer that we don't use my name, either first or last, because it traces me back to them. Jules Hendricks is what I'm going by, not Juliana Fowler.
How much of what happened between the two of them would we have been able to see?
Given your races, all of you have dark vision, right?
I do not.
Oh yeah, as a champion you don't. Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to see anything, but you would have heard a good chunk. Go ahead and just make a quick perception check for me.
I also don't see shit.
Dragonborn don't have dark vision?
I didn't actually get the dark vision mod installed on my.
Okay.
Unfortunate.
I'll be seeing in this shit.
Ow.
I can see some bullshit, but I can't see him.
All right, so rolling nebulas die.
Yeah. So what I'll do actually is I'll get all of you guys to roll perception checks for me, with the exception of Jules, obviously, to determine how much you were able to hear of the conversation they had.
That was an 11.
11? Okay.
7.
A 6!
6. Phelan?
That's 8.
8. You guys didn't
Have you
hear
guys
a
seen
word.
Shazam?
As soon as Jules walked forward, you just started to hear off in the distance. You didn't catch a single bit of any of the conversation that they had, but you heard everything up until Jules started to walk away.
It's like the villain speech from Shazam. He's too far away. We can't hear him.
So if that is the case, then nobody knows Jules is anybody but Jules Hendricks.
Well, he used my name. He used both Juliana and Fowler. There.
You may choose the name Hendricks, Juliana, so you know the name Juliana, but the House of Fowler. You don't know what the connection is to Fowler, but you at least know the names Juliana and Fowler.
However, Juliana just said that.
Yeah.
Juliana Fowler is not me.
You really pulled a Superman with this, didn't you? Juliana and Jules, you just like put on glass and you're like, fuck yeah, there you go, find me now.
He sounds like Galahad after a blow to the head.
Sorry, Moose, we love you, bud. All right. So, with that, you have the still unconscious girl that you're taking back to the city. Phelan, did you have something? Oh, no. Yeah, so you still have the still unconscious girl that you can take back to the city.
Oh.
Well, now you're just speaking in Gnomish, dude.
What up? No.
Oh no.
So the still unconscious girl, you're still on your way back to Hupperduke. It's only about another 30, maybe 40 minutes from where you are, following along the same path.
Okay.
So
Jules is just gonna walk silently and like very brooding and very angry, radiating don't mess with me right now energy, and just shifting magical energy from one hand to another.
Alrighty. So bringing the young girl back into the city, you see that the nightly festivities of the gnomes are back in full swing. And let's go ahead and...
Before we get back in town, Jules will turn to the rest of the group and say, and please don't mention my names to our higher ups, please.
Okay.
Alrighty. So you see that the nightly festivities of the gnomes are back in full swing. Flagons and mugs of fuse being raised by the gnomish workers, a series of soft booms echoing out as purple and red fireworks light up the evening sky. You push your way through the crowds to the sound of a few boos from the workers as they bump into you and spill some of their drink, only to be quickly topped off by another gnome, a hose running from a small barrel atop their shoulder, kind of pushing through the crowds and doling out the delicious liquid. Eventually you find yourselves in Upper Hupperduke, with the Starosta's mansion shining like a beacon and a few Crown's Guards stationed outside. State your business.
We're Crown's Guard.
Crown's Guard.
Galahad points to the Crown's Guard emblem that has been like magnetically stuck to his chest.
Oh, you're Shut up, Siri. Jesus.
You're not in uniform. All right. Who are you here to see?
The Starosta.
Very well. Inside and you go. Waiting room's on the other side.
And you're led back into the familiar, very gorgeous mansion inside the city. Kind of making your way to a smaller chamber, and you see that a couple of the Crown's Guard that were outside start to make their way in. You can see them kind of corralling a couple of people, asking a few questions. A couple minutes pass as you're sitting there waiting for everybody to show up. It's not late at night by any stretch, but it's definitely outside of kind of regular hours, especially compared to when you were here last time. But 5 minutes, 10 minutes goes by. And you see, stepping in, the space has been filled with oil-lit glass lanterns. You're escorted into the waiting room, where you now see the Crown's Guard, the Starosta, Ludinus, and Crown Marshal Damarag, the three people that you had met before. But the three figures have an unfamiliar face behind them. Standing just under 6 foot, a linen cloth drapes down from the figure's head, loosely obscuring a battle-scarred set of chest armor and a single large bracer covering most of the left arm. The cloth is belted off with a rough piece of hempen rope above canvas slacks, while his feet lay bare against the floor. His right arm is covered in darker blue scales, with spiked fins emerging from both calves and both forearms. The figure pulls back his hood to reveal a long, disheveled, aqua-green hair tied in a messy ponytail with a scraggly beard to match. Strapped to his back, you see a long metal staff with a trident tip strapped onto a large oval shield. And this is where we get to introduce Les Paul.
Les Paul.
Les Paul.
The smile that's on Kevin's face right now is giving me life.
He's even wearing the hood to match. So, with all of you making your way into the room, the unconscious girl kind of set and tied into one of the chairs by a couple of the Crown's Guard to make sure that she doesn't escape. Still not awoken, even after all the time traveling. You're not entirely sure why, but...
Could it possibly be her face being shoved against the stone?
It was an impulse decision. I'm sorry.
We did not
It was a
abuse
good
the child.
decision.
So, with the girl seated there, the Triton figure, hood pulled back, standing kind of off and behind between Ludinus and Crown Marshal Damareg, the Starosta pipes up. Well, what happened? Well, okay, who is this? And how did things go?
Things went very well, all things considered. We went in, we found, we believe we were looking for, defeated a handful of kobolds and disabled the bomb that they had planted in order to bring the whole mountain down on the entire city.
It was very stressful.
Bomb? That does sound stressful.
Nebula's going to open up his bag of holding and reach in and pull out the top ring of the bomb. And he's going to pull the top ring of the bomb out of his bag of holding and go, yeah, real stressful.
Yeah, do you place it on top of the table and pass it over to them?
Oh, no, I just pull it out and hold it up.
Yeah.
Just like, bomb, stress.
And you can see the Starosta kind of pulling out a pair of spectacles and putting them on and just looking and... Oh, looks complicated. Definitely.
About as complicated as Stallmouse in a little girl's body with animated magic.
Those are a lot of words that don't make sense together.
No,
Yep.
they don't.
Also, siding with a dog to take down a dog was also not on the agenda that we foresaw.
There was the case of Washburn, yeah.
And you can hear at this point the Crown Marshal pipes up and...
Washburn was told to go there to give you assistance, given how things turned out last time when he wasn't here with us.
Well, he did technically help us.
And
For a
then,
little while, anyway.
and then killed our hostage and ran off.
Which, I mean, in theory, was just him making sure we didn't have to carry extra weight. And, that really probably came in handy if you think about it,
Well, good luck finding him in the Underdark now.
Yes.
All we know is that he crawled somewhere with his tail between his legs.
You can see that the Crown Marshal is kind of looking at the other two, who are looking at him kind of expectantly, and he just...
He's no longer your concern now.
Speaking of our concern, we know all of you, but who is this? And she motions with her head to Les Paul.
Oh, what, you talking to me over here?
Hello.
Sorry, it was just been a bit of a daydream about how dangerous little girls and dogs are. They're pretty fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who would you be exactly?
There's Paul.
And you see the Martinet takes a moment at this point and kind of raises a hand to Les and just says, Les is an individual that is under the Assembly's protection. Could be of some potential use to you. Not a force, of course, but with your permission. He has been wanting to get out of Huppadook for quite some time. Finds things a bit... What was the term you used? A bit short here? And she kind of looks back and snickers a little bit. And then, if you would have him, of course, he would be a worthy ally. Nothing to do with us, but we seem to be on allied sides, given our last conversations.
What can he bring to the table?
You got that big pointy thing.
Probably the whole table.
If you would like to show them... You see that they kind of move out of the way a little bit and allow you a little bit of room to be able to make a demonstration if you'd like.
Okay. So
you see on the other side of the room, there is kind of like an ornamental set of armor set upon a like a wooden figurine, essentially. Obviously, they're very much just for looks, but it's about the right size.
Okay, so Les kind of just to keep it a bit quiet now is just kind of surveying all of these people for the first time in a while, not talking first and just kind of seeing how everyone else kind of reacts. But he'll get up from where he's sitting and kind of pick up his trident with just effortless ease, kind of spin it around a couple times just to kind of get himself in a ready stance. And he'll take the staff and then just kind of throw it from him. So it kind of gets like just about 30 feet or so. And then as it sort of floats away from him, it'll stop in midair and he'll just retract it back to his hand and just go and just cut down the wooden statue as you see this kind of weird sort of invisible force kind of covering the end of the trident with just like a huge wave of force that just smacks it and just smashes it into a million pieces. Is that good enough for you?
That was kind of cool.
That was.
Just seems like you guys have been getting in a little bit of trouble lately in this Cerberus assembly here. Thought you could use a little bit of backup.
I think we were fine. We only almost died like 5 times.
It was a bit close.
If we get Les Paul to join, we could narrow that down to maybe 3 or 4 times we almost die. Less is more.
Margot's not going to say anything.
Sorry.
Margot's not going to say anything, but she's going to gently rub her stomach where she got gut punched.
I think your process a little bit. I think your processor got hit, but you know what? We'll see. Just do a reboot later. Oh my god.
What's that, Moose?
Yeah, good. I was making a joke about Galahad needing a reboot.
So, Margot, with the punch, it's definitely still sore. Like, you guys haven't rested. You're all on pretty low hits at this point, but...
getting sucker punched in the gut at close range was not exactly her idea of a good time. She won't say this out loud, but she's definitely feeling a little bit, squishy in the midriff.
And you see this figure, one thing as well with the trident, that was kind of all you had seen on the figure's back, but with Les stepping out and adopting a stance, you notice he also pulls out a very large oval shield, kind of almost like a massive turtle shell. Not a real shell, of course, but like kind of has that style to it. Definitely fitting with the aesthetic, and you could imagine that this is a figure that kind of, fills a slot that you don't currently really have, kind of a more defensive character.
You all made a right choice, choosing the Cerberus Assembly and siding with the Empire. They're a very strong faction and will be able to service you in all the needs that you have coming forth. And I am merely here as a tool to be displayed at your will.
Well, that's fine with me, bud. Les, was it?
That's right, sir. And Les Paul.
All right, say less. So I need to know, what do you make of this? And points at Stallmouse in little girl form.
And just kind of walks towards you as you're holding this little girl. She alive?
I mean, we hit her, but I don't think that hard.
Hey, Starosta.
Yes?
Think one of the mages could maybe wake her up a little bit?
I can see why not. Martinet?
Kind of gestures over, and Ludinus from their seat kind of steps up and makes their way around the corner.
She's restrained, right?
Yeah, she's tied,
okay, cool.
tied by you guys, and then tied to the chair by the Crown's Guard. So yeah.
Cool.
And Suros and Ludinus Martinet kind of makes their way around over to the little girl. Slaps the face a little bit. Doesn't have any response, and then we'll get her woken up. Excuse me. And the Martinet makes her way outside and is gone for a couple of minutes. And while she's gone, the Starosta just kind of starts asking, what exactly happened? Like, you mentioned a bomb and other things. Did this girl tell you anything? Did you find anything? What was there?
Well, we came across the information that Skins has been murdered. Probably for the fact they didn't finish what they were supposed to do. Stallmouse here resides in a little girl's body, if that is not their original body. Definitely got some necromantic vibes going on there, and they whispered something about being alive much longer than they were supposed to be. The mechanical dog was a treat, that one, you know. Real scruff McGruff going on there. Loved that. Little girl had a mech that was like Galahad, but huge. So that was a thing.
You see the Crown Marshal's eyes at the mention of a mech go real wide, like genuinely curious on the status of the mech.
So yeah, that was a thing. There was a big dwarf. We smashed both of them, the dog, the mech, and the dwarf. Destroyed all of that, and then...
And the face gets really sad again as you mentioned that you destroyed it.
Melted it into oblivion, more like.
Galahad just remembers tearing it to pieces and just gives like a self-satisfied nod.
His shoulders just slump and he just kind of like...
all right.
Margot remembers firing volleys of fire into its internal mechanisms.
Sorry, Dumrag, you're not gonna have your toys to play with anymore.
Yeah.
And he's just like muttering to himself, just
Fucking this.
I mean, you could go back in there and probably pick up the pieces. There is a chance that something creepy and horrifying comes up from wherever the place beneath that is. You know, there's always that option. But hey, you guys are the Cerberus. You know, you're cool with anything, right? You know, still don't understand why we on the lower level are out here knocking this out. But hey, labor, right?
Did any of you find any more evidence as to why he was acting this way? I mean, we know from what I've gathered he was the weapons designer for the Empire. He was a bit disgruntled, but this seems to be a whole other different level.
Well, I'd say his disgruntled energy had really reached a peak as he was about to drop one on you. So yeah, I think he's a little bit more than disgruntled.
Real quick, Jordy, the book that Jules found, when they used it, did it translate it for everybody to see, or was it just for Jules?
It's essentially a cipher. So you've got the cipher and then the book, and you use the two in conjunction with each other to figure out what the book actually says. You spent, a good 15-20 minutes deciphering a quarter of the book, like the third, about 20% of it, but it would take a while, probably about an hour or so of reading through the whole thing to decipher the entirety of it.
Okay. I found a journal of sorts. However, it has a cipher under it, so it'll take me some time to work through it. But once I do, I believe I should be able to hand it over to you.
Well, we were the ones who requested that you go there. Well, why don't you hand it over to us, and we'll take care of that.
I would prefer to read through it myself first. It has rather sensitive information. Make sure that I am able to report on it properly to you in order for you to assess where it should end up.
Yeah, and Nebula would chime in here and say, yeah, some weird magic sort of connection between the books. The holder of the books is the one granted the ability to translate it, from what I understand. And we killed the last one. It was the dwarf in there, the Dwergar. So I believe currently Jules is the only one capable of deciphering that book, while they are the possessor and the living. Definitely the living part, I think. That's the key from what I gathered. He's lying out of his teeth, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, both of you go and make deception checks for me.
Both of us?
Both of you, yeah, independently.
All right. Mine is a 16 plus 5, so a 21.
21.
I got a 15.
15 total. The first roll. Hey, that's not bad. The idea of like Jules being the only living person who can read it seems a little bit far-fetched to them, but they're kind of okay with the fact that like you did succeed. You brought back all of these things. You haven't seemed to be lying about anything so far. You've got the girl here with you. You've got the book. They're willing to give you an hour or so if you'd like to read through it on your own.
Cool.
So, a couple minutes pass by, and then eventually the martinet comes back, and you can see that they're flanked by two individuals kind of in longer white robes, like red circular symbols with a vertical line striking through them. Definitely look to be some kind of clerics or healers associated with Hupperduke, and they come into the room and tend to a couple of the wounds on the girl, right the broken nose, make sure that everything seems to be okay when she would be brought back, and is eventually revived after a couple minutes of kind of tending to her wounds. And she's promptly gagged. Make sure that she isn't able to just start lashing out.
Did they remove my blasting powder gag? Is that what we're hearing?
Yes.
All right. It's a damn shame.
I was just about to go over and be like, what's that around her mouth?
What did you do to this poor child?
Insurance.
And, sorry, go ahead, Les.
Well, I was going to just make a comment as we're all kind of deciding about the journal and the book, kind of still looking at this little girl and noticing all of her machinations of like mechanical part of her face and different parts of her body. Just kind of looking them over and like, I've never seen anything quite like this before in all my time.
And getting a better
You
look.
seen any?
Sorry, go ahead.
Was just going to gesture to them like, were there any plans or blueprints of Stallmouse making any person or people like this?
The only blueprints we were to find suggested that they were going to bring the mountainside down on the city. I don't believe we saw any other form of blueprints.
Well, there was also the horrifying book on how to put bombs in people.
That as well. I forgot about that.
Right, we did have some... You did tell me about some dealings with some exploding kobolds, and that would make a lot of sense. That's it.
Alrighty. So with the girl being revived at this point, you kind of checking those things before the clerics had finished their work and bringing her back. The blasting cap removed from her mouth as the gag. Blasting powder, I should say. And she just kind of comes back, and you can see that her eyes are kind of darting around the room, and then they land and fall squarely on the Starosta and just become daggers looking directly at the Starosta. and starts screaming into the gag that's in her mouth now.
Oh, that's why I see what you did, right. Yep.
So
now this one's talking. Interesting.
The clerics excuse themselves at this point, and the Martinet kind of looking at the girl and seeing this reaction to the Starosta just kind of and like pats her on the top of the head, and all of a sudden is just silenced. But you can see that her mouth is still going as if she's trying to speak, but is unable to do so.
You might want to try that next time instead of smashing a little girl's head in. I mean, I'm just saying. There are alternatives.
Our resources were slightly limited.
So, with the Martinet doing that, kind of addressing the group again. So I take it that you were not able to get anything from her. Anything of use, I assume.
Not really.
Right. Oh.
We got a few cuts and scrapes. That was a trade.
Those are not of use. My turn then. And you can see that she kind of reaches a hand out and places it just over the edge of where the little girl's head is. And you can see the girl kind of looking up and like trying to scamper away a little bit, and then taking a second, and then just a wave, and you all kind of feel this whoosh impact against your chest. And then the girl just kind of shivers in place, and then stops trying to move or talk, and it's just kind of looking around the room a little bit. And then the Martinet removes the gag. What is your name, child? My name is Gilda Stallmoust. The daughter of Huron? Huron was my dad, and the inventions you destroyed were all his, with a few of my own improvements. Go on. The kobolds, they were easy. Give them a couple of little trinkets, stick a bomb in them, tell them they get to blow stuff up. They got real excited about it. And you can see her, like, she's actively trying to fight against this. Margot, Jules, and... Yeah, Margot and Jules, I'll get you guys to both make Arcana checks for me.
Wonderful.
That's dirty 20.
That is a 22 total.
22, awesome. So both of you recognize this spell, one that is outside of your current abilities to cast, but you know the effects and you've seen them used in the past. This is a dominate person spell that's been cast on her, effectively compelling her to tell the truth. Outside of a zone of truth where an individual can prevent or can just stop talking, this is compelling the truth from an individual. Kind of leaning further into the power behind the Martinet, the Archmage that's in front of you.
While Margot is listening to this, in the back of her head, she's remembering the letter from Nadar about Stallmouse believing to be dead. And the minute that she stops, she goes, "Is it true? Your father, he's dead."
She kind of like looks over at you and... I was there. I was there the day that my father's experiments were tested. At the direction of your leaders. And she points at the Starosta. I saw I saw the destruction it ruined. I've lived with that pain ever since. And she kind of like tries to lift the broken, like the mechanical arm that's attached to her shoulder, and kind of points at the side of her face where you can see some of the burn markings and the mechanisms have been installed in the side of her face. He was obsessed, and your government gave him the tools to let that obsession consume him. You all deserve to join him.
In death, I'm sorry, it was unclear. Was that a he's dead? Because I heard the experiment part. I heard the blast. Sorry about the stuff that looks awful. Yeah, they definitely give off bad guy vibes. I get that. But is he dead?
He's gone. I don't know if he's alive or dead.
So
all right, that was terrifying and of no help, but thank you.
Yeah, that was eerily vague. I don't like that.
Why don't you ask her? And she again shoots daggers at the Starosta, who is looking a little uncomfortable in her chair at this point.
Well,
What do you mean? What experiments?
And you can see the girl at this point, even Ludinus is kind of like looking at the girl, and even under the effect of Dominate Person, is kind of letting things run their course and looks over to the Starosta. And the Starosta is just like very awkwardly kind of fidgeting in the chair. And
I think that's quite enough for this evening.
I don't.
Yeah, really. Got a laundry list of questions here, and we're real sticklers for completion. So, love to check more boxes off while we've got this going on.
We did what we set out to do at your behest. It is our behest now that if you want us to get the job done, we'll sit here and finish until we will ask the questions until we are done. What experiments?
and she kind of gestures forward for Ludinus to replace the gag, which Ludinus does as the effect of the spell ends. And the girl kind of starts yelling and screaming a little bit into the gag for a couple of seconds before eventually going quiet.
The girl's father was a brilliant man, an inventor, someone who created technology, weapons, things that we had never seen. He found something, brought it back to the city, and requested materials and tools and things to work on it. And we provided them, given his long track record with the Empire and the advancements that he had made for our military and for our people. And, well, eventually he brought us out for a demonstration somewhere outside the city, in a very secluded area. It's a whole mysterious thing that we weren't entirely sure, but we believed the best intentions for him. And then he took this gem and put it into this contraption, and a massive circular void opened. And he and his wife were pulled in, and his daughter started to be. And then she kind of gestures over, but we were able to stop her from going all the way through.
Nebula immediately steps forward and goes, in a very different tone and manner than he's had before. He stands at back straightened full height, and he says, would you repeat that bit about the void?
Well, we were told to stand quite far away. It was something that he had been testing, but wasn't entirely sure it was safe. It was a void, as if looking into the night sky itself. And then all manner of things began to get pulled into it. Metals are on the ground, the earth itself, rocks, trees, everything started to get pulled towards this void. And then it closed as quickly as it had opened.
So, DM question. Yeah. Would Nebula have an idea of what this might be?
Given your
of
background,
what even the thing, not maybe where it goes or what it is, but what the thing might be?
Make a history check. And actually, Jules, make a history check at this description as well.
Oh, that scares me. Okay.
I do want it to be known that as they're having this conversation back and forth, every time, when Margot kind of got a bit abrasive and confrontational, Les has just been subtly just kind of interjecting him between Starosta and them, just in a very kind of defensive stance, and he's not taking their eyes off of any of them.
All right, well, we got a 5 here.
I got a 10 plus 6, so a 16.
16, okay. On a 5, Nebula? No. Doesn't sound familiar, even for you. this is something totally different. Jules, from your experiences, none of this really resonates. But with something you read in the journal, it sounds similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But more unstable.
May I also roll an insight on all of what she kind of said, her tale about Stallmouse and
Absolutely. Roll an insight check.
That is a 12 plus 2, so a 14.
She's kind of tough to read. Like she's definitely divulging information.
I would definitely do the same.
Okay, go and roll an insight check.
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, like in your case, your mind is just kind of swimming with oh god. Okay, no, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. And and Jules, yeah, for you, like she's definitely tough to read. Like you can tell that this is not a comfortable conversation for her to be having, even explaining these details. Like given the situation, what I will say on that is that you know that she could kick you out of here and just have the Crown Guard escort you from the premises with no issues. She's at least sitting in the room and giving you something.
Yeah.
Whether you believe that or not is kind of what remains to be seen.
Whether it's fully factual or not is...
Correct. It could be part of the story, it could be all of the story, but given the condition that you're in, the situation, and having all of this coming at you really quick, it's tough to know for sure.
Okay.
So that was what happened. Her father was pulled in with his wife, and the portal or void or whatever it was closed, and we did our best, and we gave her an arm and a leg and fixed her and tried to let her lead a healthy life, and then she broke out and ran. We hadn't seen her in a few years now. And is gesturing towards the girl at this point.
It's at this moment where you can actually kind of see Margot, like behind the eyes, kind of struggling a little bit at the idea of family being wrapped up in it. Like, it's almost as if the minute that it involved the mother and the father being torn from a child, as soon as she mentioned her father and mother being ripped away from her, Margot is seeing she's seeing some reasoning behind the actions of the daughter of Stallmouse.
I also feel a little bad about slamming her into that wall. Repeatedly.
So is the kid still just being held there?
Kid is still bound. You can see that she's kind of stopped fighting against the restraints, has just kind of accepted the fact that she's like slumped in the chair. Mouth is still gagged, but isn't trying to scream or yell or anything through it. Like, seems to have told enough of her story that she's kind of content to just sit there and see how this plays out.
So Nebula then would turn and approach the little girl, and he would crouch down and look her like eye to eye and be like, so you were there. So what's she say? Check us out.
You can see that she kind of looks over at the Starosta and looks back at you and just kind of does a like...
So, let me ask you, that void, what do you know about it? Or better yet, I'll give it simple, yes or no. Is it still active? Can it be? Do you know how?
You can see that her head kind of like very somberly dips down.
Do you believe that Stallmouse beyond that void could still be alive?
She kind of like looks over at you and just...
So Nebula wants to do something real quick because he wants to get an assessment of this kid right now. So He's already done this once before, but one last time, I think just so he would refresh his own mind, but he wants to see if anything's changed. He's gonna divine sense, just to look the kid over and see some of those celestial fiend or undead.
Mm-hmm. So divine sensing inside the room, looking at her and just kind of in general, like taking a bit of a peek around the room. Nothing seems to ping.
Nothing at all.
No major pieces, but like taking a bit of a better look and a closer look at the girl, you get a little bit of a ping, specifically like on the edges of where her real body actually are. There's like a razor thin line at the edge of that, as if she's been touched by something, and it has taken parts of her, but has this like remnant line on the rest. So there's like a little bit on her head and on her face, one on her arm, and then another one kind of on her lower leg as well.
So having gotten no really terrifying like vibes, and now hearing the story, Nebula's found his interest, or at least what's going to be on his mind for a while. And so he is going to sort of, let me see. Unless you have shown yourself a danger to them, they will take up arms. So basically, he's gonna Heart of Darkness right now, where he's gonna lock eyes with her. And just one more read through of Heart of Darkness. Those who look into your eyes see you've faced unimaginable horror, and you're no stranger to darkness. Though they might fear you, commoners will extend you every courtesy and do their utmost to help you. Unless you've shown yourself a danger to them, they'll even take up arms alongside you should you find yourself fighting an enemy alone.
Okay.
And I'm going to twist this a little. You tell me how it plays out.
Okay.
And I'm going to look her dead in the eyes and say, I know about things far beyond what most can imagine. And it sounds like you might have seen one of those things. And the truth is, whatever it was, whatever it is but one of an endless multitude. But I might be able to help. All this time, you assumed your parents are still out there somewhere, wherever there is. All that ability of yours, that brilliant mind, that deadly mind, channeled into rage and hate and revenge, and yet they're still not here. I will not say you do not have the ability to retrieve them if possible, but I will say your course of action did not lead you down a road that did bring them back. But perhaps helping the right people who deal with such situations might be a better course of action for both you and your parents. These sort of things, I typically handle them on my own. And I know you feel very alone. But I could use a mind like yours. And so he is spinning this, that while he is the only one, because no one knows about him, and he is explaining that he is the only one in this room who sort of knows about that sort of shit. So he is essentially fighting an enemy by himself because he's the only one aware of it.
Yeah. I'll say go ahead and make a persuasion check. Straight roll, not at advantage.
Okay.
And we'll see what comes out. Because it is persuasion.
That is A unnatural 20.
Dirty 20. Okay. You can see her expression kind of soften a little bit. Her shoulders kind of peak at the idea. And then just kind of like her mind starts racing and her eyes start darting a little bit and like, you know, looking down at the gag that's in her mouth and just kind of like looking back at you and just kind of nods a little bit. As if in acceptance of maybe there's something I can do.
And he calls out to the group. Can I get a body count? How many actually died due to the workings of this child? Who knows?
A whole lot of kobolds.
With it,
Yes, they do.
15 kobolds.
Are we including the vermin?
See, that's kind of how I thought that y'all would think about it, and that's wonderful. For this given situation, yes, the vermin. And he looks over at Balin, and he makes a nod that is just like Speck is not vermin. Like he makes a nod, but he calls them out on their shit. So how many non-vermin then? Because we made it out. You didn't care about skins. Practically did you a favor there. And then jailbreak, kobolds blew themselves up and they blasted apart a building. But did anyone die?
Well, no.
How about the attack on this building? I know a lot of guards got wounded and we lost Speck, our own comrade. But again, vermin, as you said. So, numbers, anybody?
None of the Crown's Guard perished in the attacks. Citizens were wounded. The guards had to be healed. These are costs. These are things that have to be dealt with.
Then he looks at Jules and makes sort of a nod, which I'd say at this point they've sort of understood as message me.
Okay, yeah.
You've been traveling long enough, I'll allow that.
They'll open up. He
Okay.
said sure.
And I see Les is holding up a finger.
So, as Nebula is having this conversation with this little girl, insinuating, as far as I can see, some sort of recognition between this sudden interest in talking about the void and the extraplanar travel. I want to just kind of, as I'm looking at him, I want to see if I can kind of recognize that he knows what he's talking about, that when the subject is brought up, that he seems like ultra interested.
Okay. I'll say go ahead and make an insight check. Nebula, what's your charisma modifier?
My charisma modifier is +4.
+4, okay. So, insight check DC will be 14.
I got a natural 14 +3.
+3, 17. Yeah, you kind of...
Let's post best roll. Woo!
Yeah, welcome to the party, bud. Welcome to the party, pal.
Being very stoic at this point.
It is definitely a stoic intro for a character in comparison. But yeah, you would recognize that like this is someone who's speaking from a place of knowledge. This is not someone who, you know, has read a couple of books and like, you know, is regurgitating information that a couple of scholars might have told him secondhand or anything like that. Like this is someone who's coming from a place of knowledge, whether that's from, you know, years of research, firsthand experience, you don't know for sure, but it's not someone who just has like a passing, you know, bit of information that they maybe read in a book somewhere.
This ain't someone quoting Wikipedia.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I'm just gonna sort of lock that in.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so with that, the girl kind of nodding at you a little bit and you know, willing to potentially help you, in the Starosta acknowledging that technically nobody actually died, with the exception of the kobolds that attacked.
So I open up that, I send the signal to Jules to kind of message and open that up.
Yeah, Jules will throw her brow at you and then open it up and be like, "Is this what you wanted?"
And he'll respond, "Yes. Given the circumstances, I'm not quite sure what happens to this girl if she leaves our custody, or at least our employ. And considering what we just heard and noting some of the information that you might have in those books about what her father was up to, this might be risky, but she may be better served staying under our command. Considering the 5 of us were able to handle her in her most dangerous of items, I feel like we'd be able to keep her in check if need be. But I do not want to make that decision on my own here. Connect to the others and ask.
All right, then. And Jules will connect to the others and relay the information one by one, starting probably with Margot.
Okay, I'll get you to make a sleight of hand check for me.
Me?
Because what is it you're using right now? What spell?
Awakened Mind. It's with the Pact of the Old One.
Just check.
For Warlock.
So, Awakened Mind. Touch the minds of other creatures. You can telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet. You don't need to share language. Okay. I'll say instead of actually sleight of hand, because you don't actually need to make any hand movements, I thought you were using actual message. So for this aspect, what I'll do instead is I'll get you to make a quick, just straight intelligence check for me.
All right.
Because we're trying to see how quickly you can do this so they don't catch on to the fact.
That is a 17 plus 4, so 21.
Okay.
Nice.
With how much you've been doing this and how finely trained you are in this, having that conversation back and forth with Nebula took about the same amount of time as it would to say the words. For you to just like rapid, spark notes it out to everybody else on the, in their minds to get that idea out is pretty quick. And we'll say that you could get a response of a couple of words from each of them without anybody else kind of catching on to what's happening.
Cool.
So we'll kind of go around. So Margot, you would hear that idea. You've got a couple of quick, a quick response that you could send back. What are your thoughts?
At this point, Margot trying not to really raise any sort. Margot's still pretty caught up in the idea of this girl being ripped from her parents. So at this point, Margot just kind of subtly tilts her head down and then just kind of nods as if she's processing information but playing it off.
Okay. So the telepathic response is, yeah, we should take care of the girl, pretty much.
Margot's response actually is leaning towards tending to the girl, yes.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So
And with Awakened Mind, y'all can talk back to Jules. But yeah, I see Margot just kind of doing the sort of coded version.
Okay. Phelan? Hopefully Moose is connected.
Yes. Phelan is agreeing to taking care of the girl.
Okay. Galahad?
So, yes.
I'm skeptical. I don't know how safe she could be with us, considering our history with almost dying. She could be safer here if she agrees to cooperate. I vote she stays here.
She could also be forced into things that she is not particularly fond of due to the oversight here.
She could also be killed while she's traveling with us. I know what I'd prefer.
All right.
Okay. Les, you had something?
So they're doing this in very rapid succession. I'm kind of imagining it as Nebula posed that question as just kind of almost like in mid thought, kind of maybe pacing around, and all these messages are just kind of flying around as a momentary, just thinking what to say next. Mm-hmm. As they're doing that, I want to look over to Ludiness's direction and see how she's kind of reading this situation. They. Thank you.
They seem to be pretty passive, not seeming to pick up on anything. A little bit of a look of surprise as the Starosta kind of confirmed. It's an interesting way. Less surprised about the details of what was confirmed, but more surprised about the fact that they were being confirmed. This kind of thing is not something that tends to get left or tends to get outside of the Empire. And so the Starosta, the Starosta revealing these details is a little bit like a, you might have fucked up. But other than that, is pretty passive, pretty plain-faced. You can see that the Crown Marshal is like a little bit taken aback and almost looks like a little sad that he wasn't involved in any of this and didn't know about any of it when it was happening, because, you know, he's the Imperial, you know, Crown Marshal of the military. The fact that this guy was building weapons for the military and all of this was happening outside of his purview, like, you can tell he is genuinely surprised.
Okay.
Okay.
So the conversation happens, and a couple of you are on board. Galahad has reservations, but Jules, you're able to communicate that back with Nebula, and the two of you are the ones who kind of have the floor at the moment.
And so as soon as I get, I guess, do you, Jules communicates back everyone's responses real quick in Flash.
Yeah. Everyone but Galahad is on board.
And he'll look to Galahad for just a moment, and then he'll look up back to Ludiness and oh god, what is her name?
Ludiness Deleth.
Ludiness Deleth. He'll respond back. I believe, based on the current events, without a single non-vermin having died and no real damage, we disarmed the bomb. This might be one of the most brilliant minds available in the area, who single-handedly almost took down this pinnacle of warfare that you are. But also that comes at a price, having seen something which it sounds like you have seen as well. I believe whatever work we are doing here for you is ultimately going to tie us up dealing with what it is you left unfinished. And it would be in our best interest to have someone well-versed in the matter. So I propose that you release her into our custody as she was when she arrived. Clearly, we can handle her. And without her mech or mechanical dog or minions, she is much more easily in our command, and we will gladly take on your addition to our crew, less here to serve as official watchdog, so it were, as he has no allegiance to us or anything that we have in mind.
And you can see that the Starosta looks like genuinely sad at the idea. The conversation that you had before, like, again, going back to that insight check that you had seen, like, there was a genuine bit of sadness at the fact that, like, they tried to do everything to save this girl, and, you know, they were able to get her outfitted with mechanical arm and a mechanical leg and undo some of the damage that had been dealt to her body, but she still blamed them for everything. The Martinet, Ludinus, is uncaring. This falls so outside of their purview that, you know, they really couldn't care less. Looking at the girl and knowing how much of an asset that the girl's father was to the military, and the fact that she was able to do all of this on her own in the last couple of years has piqued her interest a little bit. And so she's just kind of like looking down at the girl and smiling a little bit, and you can see her kind of weighing the odds and then looking over at Les.
Can I add a sentence in? If you're saying that I see this, can I add and Nebula seeing that assessment go on, he'll say, and under the right tutelage and given the right supervision, perhaps one destroyed mech in exchange for what could be the knowledge of the century. It's not a bad option. But considering the way they feel towards you currently, I doubt you would acquire that knowledge anytime soon.
You can see the words are kind of sinking in. Make a persuasion roll.
Get it.
That is a total of 23.
23. Fine. The girl will stay with you. You have proven yourselves to be capable. None of you have died, which is impressive. With the protection that Les will provide you, we shall give you some time. She is not yours to bring with you on every adventure that you take, but as allies of the Assembly, and one of our own in your midst, bring her to Rexentrum, the capital city of the Empire. She will undergo the trials of the Cerberus Assembly to determine if she is a good fit, but in the meantime, she will see something beyond these walls, and hopefully get rid of some of the pent-up rage that resides inside her.
And to that comment, Nebula says just one last thing. He looks over at Margot, and then he looks at Jules, and then he looks over to Phelan, and then to Galahad, and finally, last, looking at the girl, he says, "There's no really getting rid of that rage. It's just about how you channel it."
At this moment, you actually see Margot, like her wings that were really staunchly on her back kind of drop loose a little bit, and you see her like kind of clench her, like bare knuckle, like white knuckling almost. And for a minute, no, actually, she didn't really even hide it all that well. All of you can clearly see that there are some very strong dots connecting in Margot's head that are affecting her.
When you deliver the girl to Rexentrum, she will be taken care of. But before you leave, you can see that the Martinet looks over at the Starosta now, who's like really looking pretty defeated, sitting in her chair. And then looks at the Starosta and just, "I will take that journal from you. You may read it, as the agreement was made, but whatever knowledge lies inside it belongs with the Assembly. I take it the journal is the girl's." And she's looking at you now, Jules. Do you remember what the journal entry was?
I'm trying to recall. I remember it, but I don't remember it in super close detail.
So I'll let you know, because it was a minute, and we've got some people here tonight who haven't read it or heard what it was last week. So the journal entry that you heard was that the journal describes an excavation site with a crashed vehicle looking similar to an Illithid ship that was impacted and buried itself into the ground. A few bodies were burnt, but one, a metal frame, was unscathed. The closest description would be a warforged creature, but with vastly different from the ones that the Empire had seen before. Silver human-like skin, hair seeming actually to grow out of its head, and a slow pulsing blue crystal in its chest, almost beating like a heart. And then it goes on to describe the vision of Stalmast, and you remember that the journal is not the girl's. It is very much a journal of Stalmast. But she seemed to have been reading it and knows what the contents of it are now in the age that she is, which you guys would estimate, by the way, that she's like about 13, 14.
Okay.
So so you know that the journal is not hers, but you're being asked if it is.
I am unsure at this point. It's going to take a little bit of reading to clarify that.
Very well. Just provide it as soon as you're done. And no copies, please.
Understood.
A document of this importance is something that must have an original and an original alone. So, Crown Marshal, Starosta, is there anything else you require this evening? And you can see, like, both of them are in different states of really sad. Like, the Starosta looking legitimately sad about the situation that had happened and, like, what's happened with this girl. Whereas the Crown Marshal just looks really sad that he didn't get his hands on the weaponry or any of the technology that was in the base. But both of them just kind of wave a hand, and the Martinet looks back at Les and looks at all of you, and very well. We shall take care of her for this evening, arrange a room for her. Starosta, will they be allowed to stay within the mansion this evening? And the Starosta just kind of like nods in her chair a little bit. Good. Rooms will be made up for each of you on the upper floors, give you a better view of the city, and we'll reconvene in the morning to determine next steps. Good night. And then she kind of takes the girl and undoes the all of the bindings and the rope, and makes it so the girl can actually walk around, and kind of starts to lead her out of the room, leaving Les with the 5 of you.
As we're kind of sitting here for a minute, just gonna wait for them to kind of leave the room.
Oh, can I just make a request? If you're waiting for them to leave, can I just catch her name escapes me. Their name escapes me. What was it?
Ludinus.
Ludinus. Galahad would raise a hand.
Just a moment, Ludinus. I have a request, if you don't mind.
The gaze falls to you, and they nod.
Galahad unclips a object from his belt.
When I first awoke, I found this. I was wondering if you might be able to identify just what it is. I know the Cerberus Assembly has resources and great magical knowledge. I would appreciate if you could hopefully help me in this.
And what is it you're handing over?
Handing over the hilt that hangs from Galahad's belt.
Okay. And you can see Ludinus kind of looks down at it, takes the hilt from your hand, turns it over a few times, focuses on it. Doesn't appear to be magical. Fine craftsmanship. I've never seen a metal quite like this. Is this something that you would like me to pass along and have us research, or did you just want my opinion?
Anything you might know. It's the only thing I have from when I woke.
Give me a week. I'll see what I can do with it.
Thank you.
She takes the hilt, or they take the hilt and kind of flip it over in their hand, and it vanishes in thin air. And they make their way out of the room with the girl in tow. So Les, sorry, you said as they're walking out.
So I'm gonna wait a minute for them to kind of leave the room.
Hold on, before everything, sorry, I just want to, so before, Margot sends a message specifically to the little girl.
Okay.
Like, just trying to catch her attention. Margot, so before they leave the room, like, Margot, like, they've already probably...
Did they take the girl out of the room? Isn't she still with us?
No, they're getting her own room for the night.
Okay.
Martinet is getting her room.
So, before they leave, like, as they're walking out and the back of the little girl is to Margot, Margot casts message directly to the girl and goes, I know the fire that burns in you. I feel it every day. And that's...
So you're actually casting message, right? She can respond?
She can respond, yes.
And
with the way that she is saying this, like, there is no doubt that the way that Margot's saying this, like, it's laced with every ounce of truth a person could muster.
Okay. Go ahead and make just a general charisma check for me. Just roll d20, add your charisma.
That's a 17.
17, okay. you kind of like see her look back at you and like look back at the five of you and give a little bit of a nod of thanks, and having heard your voice in her head, looks back at you and just kind of read the journal, and then makes her way out of the room.
Okay, unless.
Okay, so now with that, the Starosta is leaving again.
Wait, no,
really
now I want to.
And the Crown Marshal is gone, and it's just the six of you now remaining. The five of you kind of eyeing up Les as this new figure, but seeming to wait in the room with you and have a chance to stick around. So Les, what did you want to do?
So, as
everybody's leaving.
Sorry.
I fall out of my chair.
God damn it. This is not going to seem very cool anymore. It's so hyped up. I fart. No. Oh, God. I'm glad that's out of there. No, I wait for the rest of them to leave. The very important people from the Empire.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I guess I'm kind of still standing there.
Mm-hmm.
The trident in hand. Kind of was in that kind of protective demeanor, and kind of just watched them go away. And then watch them kind of turn the corner and just go, oh, thank God, I can't stand being quiet for more than a second. I just kind of throw the trident to the ground. As we're like, looks like we're gonna be bunk mates from now on. Come here, you rascals. And I just like grab one and I grab the other. I'm like, it's been a long time since I've been with the group. I've been my own for quite some time. Usually when I hang out with these people, they tell me to shut up and I don't really get to say very much. But I'm finally going to be able to hang out with you, lovely. And I just start like rubbing around and give Galahad like a noogie. And I'm like, a wolf over his hair. That's going to be very, very fun.
Yeah, the hair is now like sticking up the side of the head a little bit.
Jules immediately tries to get out of that.
Nope, you're not missing this party. Come on, we're gonna be friends for a while now. And I try to get them in and kind of like a huddle.
Does he try this with Margot?
Yeah.
Oh, she just straight up palms his face. Like
So oh no, I can't do that to myself. That's right. No, never mind. Yeah, you can palm my face.
Yeah.
No, I just like palm his face and like attempt to like push him away from me.
That's fine. Not everyone's a hugger. Consent is key. Consent is key. Anyone else? How about you over there, bugbear? And I just like point over to the bugbear.
I'm running in for the hug.
You kind of got Nebula, Jules, and Galahad. Like Jules desperately trying to escape. Actually, Jules, make a quick dex check for me.
Okay, cool.
Actually, this is considered a grapple, so this is actually acrobatics.
17 plus 2, a
19.
19.
All right, let's go and make an athletics check for me.
The second roll of the day is trying to hug someone.
D&D!
It's athletics.
Athletics, yeah.
21.
Jules, you are desperately trying to get out, and then you see Phelan just charging forward. You're like, shit! And you just duck a little bit and like slimp yourself down as Phelan just piles in, and the five of you are now hugging with Margot just like from the other side of the room.
And then as I kind of
like him as much before, but I like him a lot now.
As I kind of give that pat, I'm like, I'm sorry, my friends. Appearances. Sometimes you gotta act the part and look the part to make everyone feel all right. You know what I'm saying?
Very
and then
nice.
as I kind of say that, I do as me and Phelan are kind of embracing a little bit. I kind of put him in front of me for a second and be like, and just put out a hand.
I'll take your hand and give you a firm bugbear shake.
With his like big bugbear paw kind of grasping my trident hand, is like, I truly am sorry for your loss, my friend.
Thank you. It means the world. It's nice to have people who care.
Jules scurries over to Margot and kind of hides behind her a little bit and is like, I did not appreciate that.
Well, so Margot like gently like extends her wing to like cover more of Jules so that way she can't be seen. But then she like kind of like looks over her shoulder and she just goes, I'll need to speak with you later, privately.
All right then.
Oh, where to now, everyone?
I think beds for the night, unless, or maybe wait around, I guess, until Jules can decipher that book.
Jules, as you decipher it, I'd like to try something. I take it you are not the only one who can read.
No, I don't believe so.
Then I'd like to lend a hand.
How so exactly?
We need to give them the real thing. But perhaps having a mental copy for ourselves in some regard. I can't say how much of it I can attain, but I will try my best.
I see. All right, then. I think that there is valuable information to be gained from it. If not information, then context in the very least.
So whenever Jules is ready to go through the book, Nebula wants to do that. But I know we're also supposed to, whenever that's done, get some rest, but also hand over the book tonight or tomorrow. What's the time frame they gave us there, Jordy?
So you're all being provided rooms for the night with the girl. You're allowed to have the book for the evening, and then tomorrow morning they're going to take the book from you, and that's effectively the agreement that you're able to take the girl to Rexentrum in exchange for the book.
Cool.
Okay. So.
Hey, Jordy, that letter, if you have it written out, will you send it to me?
Yes, I will.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got it written.
My
notes are a thing.
Just to be clear, you guys were you talking that inside your heads, or were you saying that out loud about doubling the book?
I would have said that out loud, I think. Because there's nothing wrong. They're letting us read it. There's nothing wrong with us taking notes, but we are for sure going to give them the idea is to give them the real one, but I want us to have some form of being able to recall it.
Yeah, that's fine, because I know just sometimes you guys have your psychic link, so I just wanted to...
Yep.
They did, I will say, they did speak to not to make copies specifically.
Not.
Did they say not make copies?
They said specifically to not make a copy, that an original is required.
Oh yeah, and not to give them a copy.
No, yeah, not to make copies. That the importance of having a sole original with no copies is what's specifically necessary with a document such as this.
The way I took it from Nebula is that he's going to try and memorize it.
Memorizing it is
how
different.
I interpret
if you're actually transcribing and copying it out, because of the length of how long it would take to do that, whether it's deciphered or anything, you could try, but you don't know what the outcome would be. You don't know how long it would take.
Cool.
It's kind of up to you guys, but they instructed you not to.
So yeah, Nebula's trying to do, and again, this will be a DM discretion sort of thing to tell me how much of this I can get away with.
Yep.
But yeah, when we're ready to go look at the book, I'll run through that.
Okay, sounds good.
Margot also, after everything, very much needs to know what's in that journal.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not an if and or but. This is I am going to know.
Oh, yeah.
Jules is going to share it with everybody once.
But can you actually read though?
Oh no, I'm illiterate. No.
Oh no.
Alrighty. So
Marco.
With that, it is getting fairly late, not to the point of any exhaustion or anything like that, but it's closing in on 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock by the time all these conversations are done. Food is provided to you in each of your rooms. There's a small menu that you can select from, and then assorted just fresh fruits and breads and things like that you're able to have delivered up to you. It's a swanky thing. You imagine staying in a governor's household. This is kind of what you would expect it to be. And all of you are able to go into your independent rooms for the evening, try to spend some time with the book, spend some time relaxing, recovering, getting all of your wounds healed up as need be. I think what we'll do at this point is we're going to go ahead and jump into our break, and then we'll come back after our break and we'll dive into the book, because that's going to be a fun one.
Cool.
So
Cool.
With that, subscribers to Borrow Book Out of Kevin's. We are running our subscriber giveaway. So for everybody who is currently subscribed to the channel, what we tend to do on our giveaways is we offer the ability to enter into a one-shot DM'd by the lovely Kevin, currently playing Les Paul. That's something that's going to be coordinated usually for the month after the giveaway ends. So right now we're doing the February giveaway, so this will probably be coordinated for March-ish. And what we're going to do for you guys is we're going to go ahead and get you to type a specific keyword into the chat. And we're going to hope that Nightbot isn't drunk tonight, because if it is, then it makes life harder. But for tonight, with me being the new individual running over, starting to run the game, we are going to we're going to make the keyword tonight. What do you guys think?
How about Rose?
Rose.
All right, we'll make the keyword tonight Rose, like the flower. Case does not matter. You can use all caps, all lowercase, whatever you want. You can go ahead and type that into the chat now. We'll get Nightbot to run
If you're a subscriber.
If you're a subscriber, specifically. And obviously anybody who's won before, you don't have to enter because you're already a winner. Congratulations. So we'll take a quick break, probably 10-15 minutes, and then we'll be back, and we'll see you guys with the book, which is so exciting. All right, talk to you soon. And we're back. So, thank you everybody for sticking around. Our break was a little bit longer today. We had to make sure everybody was able to get food. But as a result, we are going to go ahead and roll our Nightbot giveaway. And here we go. Please work. Please work. Please work.
Come on, Night Baby.
Come on, Nightbot.
Work. Grey Wolf
You do it.
380.
Yay!
I'm pretty sure.
Calvin!
Yeah, you did enter and you are subscribed. Yeah, it worked. Nightbot, you're not drunk. Yay! Congratulations, Grey Wolf.
Congratulations, Calvin.
Yeah. And
That's awesome. We've had a good group of like solid supporters of the channel now entered into this one shot. It's very awesome.
Yeah, super sweet. So that's 3 winners now so far. Next chance to win the giveaway. Beauty of this is not just a one-time thing. We do this on every live stream that we do. So your next chance to win, as long as you're still subscribed, is this coming Monday. For that's going to be episode 17 of Beyond the Realms. Back when Kevin takes over the DM chair and I vanish into the ether. And but in the meantime, congratulations to you guys. Make sure that you keep entering, and we'll be running this through until we hit 6 players. So with that, however, let's go ahead and dive back in. So with all of you inside the mansion now, having made your way to your rooms, ordered a little bit of food, starting to tuck in to definitely the best meal you've had in a little while, and some well-deserved tending to wounds and resting up. You've had a little bit of time. Jules, you've kind of been able to start looking at the cipher again and looking back at the journal. And then eventually, left to your own devices, you have the evening. It's closing in probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock at this point. So you, as long as you head to sleep in the next 2 hours, you won't be at risk of any exhaustion or anything like that. So, what would you guys like to do?
Margot, you go forward, Nebula. You're always up to shit. You go forward.
Nebula is definitely gonna go towards go find Jules. You said health-wise
you still haven't recovered anything in terms of health because you're about to take a long rest.
Cool.
You're all still relatively low. It's more so just that you're you've kind of tended to your wounds and any bleeding has stopped.
Dope. So I'm gonna go find Jules, and I'm gonna knock on their door.
Jules will come and answer the door and go, Nebula, I assume you're here for the book?
Yeah, I'd like to have a look over and see what we can find.
All right. And she'll kind of open the door and gesture for him to come on in.
Okay.
And Nebula will enter like the vampire he is.
Slowly swinging across the
Oh no, new theory.
Whoa.
So, Nebula entering into the room. Jules, you've got the journal and you've got the cipher all prepared. A table with a couple of chairs is available inside each of your rooms. They're nicely furnished. You know, definitely not anything extravagant per se, but like solid wood desks, a couple of chairs that you can pull up, some pillows to be tossed onto the ground if you need extra seating. Easily able to find a place to get comfortable.
Cool. Jules will quickly run Nebula through what she read previously in just a quick summary, basically. And trying to. What do you make of that?
A look into a different. Did you say different dimension, different plane?
Book describes dimension. So
Okay.
just getting into where it was. The body of the Warforged tore apart. Stalmas saw that he was looking through a window to another plane of existence. A city full of mechanized people differing in sizes and shapes, metallic animals, floating vehicles, technologies he could barely dream of. But then the vision of the window flew forward, magnifying exponentially onto a bronze tower in the distance. The vision settled on a metallic man hidden in a green cloak, holding a glimmering orb. It appears we have a visitor. Keep digging, friend. You've only just scratched the surface. The orb turned over. Stalmas' vision rocketed back to his body, and the gem resting on the scraps of broken metal where the Warforge was before, seemingly having been torn apart by the gem.
Okay. Yes, seemingly another dimension.
And Nebula's going to say, but that would be... I mean, that sounds so impossible. Wouldn't you say?
It seems impossible. However, I think that we've seen a few things that are very technologically advanced recently when it comes to Stallmouse and his daughter, that I think to be as hearsay would be foolish.
And on that note, you hear a gentle knocking from outside the door again.
I'll get that. And Jules will get up and go and open the door and go, Margot.
Bad time.
Nebula and I were just going over the journal.
And at the mention of Nebula, she's like, ugh. There's something about that journal I'm curious about.
Okay.
Would you mind if I
go over it with us?
you? Yes. There's something I need to know.
All right.
Or rather, I'm hoping to find something that may help.
Very well, then. And Jules will kind of gesture, again, welcoming you into the room.
Margot just kind of slightly drifts through. Nebula. And then just goes forward.
What?
Blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Jules kind of stands in the doorway with her arms crossed, just kind of looking back and forth between the two of them, like, don't you dare start any sort of shit right now.
Nebula's not actually paying much attention to Margot's presence this time. He's aware of Margot's here, and he nodded when she, like, if she said his name or anything, he just kind of absentmindedly looks in her direction and nods, and is back to looking at the books, which they're set on the table, right?
So it's the single journal. It's effectively split into 5 sections.
Okay, but the cipher as well, right?
The cipher is a single page that effectively each of the words, like, think of like an actual cipher where letters correspond to a specific symbol, and then it's a decryption symbol using that, and then using keywords. Like, it is a very advanced one. It's not just like a one-to-one. You kind of have to take it through a couple of stages. From what you guys did before, when you took a little bit of time to allow Jules to read 20% of the book, you determined it took about 20 minutes for her to go through that using the cipher. So regardless of how many people are looking at it, it's still only one page in one document, so it's going to take about 20 minutes per additional
Now Nebula would like to try what he's here for. This is a single page cipher, correct?
It's a 2-page cipher, back and front.
Okay. So Nebula is going to pick up that cipher first. And as it's a single piece of paper back and front, he is going to activate. He's going to look at the others and he says, don't freak out. It's helpful. And he's going to channel divinity and activate Watcher's Will. You can choose up to 4 creatures you can see within 30 feet of you. For 1 minute, you and the chosen creatures have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. It might not be exactly what this is, but for the most part, he's going into this mental realm of doing some shit right now. So he's granting everyone in this room a saving throw on all the mental stats. And its advantage and all of that. And the reason is he's going to pick this up and he's going to look this over, front and back, and mustering up his newest cantrip ability, he is going to cast Minor Illusion. And as a shape changer who spends his life mimicking things to an exact and then becoming them, he is trying to channel that sort of knowledge and memory to imitate and make a minor illusion of this written sheet of paper, to copy it and be able to summon an illusion version of it on command. While you cannot physically interact with it, it still should look like the item that we are trying to copy.
Yep. That's correct.
So he is basically trying to train his mind right now to be able to summon a duplicate without ever truly copying the item. At the very least, he wants to start with the cipher because it's a single piece of paper to see if he can like figure it out. Okay.
I will say, so Minor Illusion is an exact copy. It's not a problem to make a front and back copy of that. It is a still copy. So if you like float it in midair, you can like physically walk around to see both sides of it. I understand that aspect of things. I will say make a spellcasting ability check. So D20 plus your spellcasting mod.
Okay.
And let me know the result.
Okay.
This is a very hard thing to do, but it might let you get at least some of it.
So that is a 12.
12. Okay. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You can definitely summon the piece of paper, and like you kind of test yourself where kind of as Jules and Margot are maybe looking over the document a little bit, you're like summoning it every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, trying to see if you can get an exact copy of it. And you're able to get some of the symbols, but it's missing the details. Okay. And it's more so just that like immediately in the room, you look at the thing, you summon a copy of the thing, that's fine. But using your memory and your ability with the spellcasting to reproduce what's there, you're not at the ability of being able to do that yet.
Okay. And
right,
so
it's
that's
a good thought, but
no, yeah, and that's what he's working on. He also wants to do the same thing to the image of the book because he knows he can't get the inner workings of it right now, but if you were to like pick the book off the shelf, he at least wants to be able to like 3D Tony Stark 3D model to look at what the book like from the outside looks like.
From the outside with the covers. I'll say with a 12 that you're able to do that. You're able to get the general look of what the book is. There's limited writing on the outside of it anyway. That the 12 is going to be good enough that you could summon a copy of that book from memory. Cool. At will, but you're not able to get the cipher or obviously the contents.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
Cool.
Sorry, Kev, what'd you say?
Said big brain moves.
Yeah, it's worth a shot, right? Like it's a high DC, but if you hit it, yeah, 100%, that is a thing that you could do. All right, so you're able to summon a copy of the book. We'll say it takes you, the better part of 10-15 minutes to do that. So Margot and Jules, at this point, you would have been able to go through one section as Nebula was kind of practicing that ability. Did you want to start front to back, go 1 to 5, or did you want to pick a specific number?
I'll just go 1 to 5 in chronological order, see if that would help us get context for the rest of the book as we go.
All right.
Good. At this point, Margot's not willing to skimp over any detail and is going from front to back as well.
Sounds good. Alrighty, so the first section between the two of you, you're able to get it deciphered, and kind of as Nebula's wrapping up his experiments, you've got a copy of it that you've kind of read out and are just going back over and making sure that it all is correct. So the first section describes Huron Stallmoust settling into Hupperduke and working for the Empire with his wife Anne and their daughter Gilda. His knowledge was used to craft new weapons and bombs that would be used in the current conflict with the Kryn dynasty. This is dated about 6 years ago. But he found himself becoming jaded after being praised for the destruction that they wrought on the battlefield. He was proud to be a citizen of the Empire, and this position afforded his family a luxury lifestyle, but he had his doubts and began to resent the work that he did over the few years that he did it. So that's your first section. So Nebula's kind of wrapped up at this point. Pretty generic, but it sets on a timeline for the book, right? Starting about 6 years ago. Second section, another 15-20 minutes to kind of go through that. Is a little bit on the shorter side. So this one describes Huron taking a weapons research mission, specifically located in the Feywild. And it mentions a name that Jules, you would know inherently. Margot and Nebula, I'll get you guys to make history checks for.
17 for me.
Okay.
3.
Okay. Margot, the name rings a bell. You don't know all the details, but you're going to at least get some of it. Jules, you know this name definitively. So, a research mission in the Feywild after meeting with Prime Arbiter Sidnock Truscan. I'll send you this name because it's a weird one. So, during that meeting with Sidnock Truscan, Huron learned of an intelligence report that stated a strange power source was discovered in the Feywild in the forests of the Broken Stone Valley. The Empire's military strategists wanted to know if this power source could be weaponized, and he was dispatched to the Feywild under the protection and supervision of a gold dragonborn. The name, Sidnock Truscan, is tied to an individual who is a longtime ally of the Dwendalian bloodline. Dwendalian bloodline essentially being the king of the Empire.
Yeah.
Sidnock managed to advance his family's influence within the Empire above most other noble houses, and he became known as the Prime Arbiter of Rexentrum. So he's essentially one of the most senior officials within the capital city of the Empire, known as Rexentrum. He has a grudge against religious empowerment, and he's constantly attempting to sniff out corruption. And Jules, that's kind of why you know him a little bit well. So, with that section closing on the mention of a gold dragonborn.
Interesting.
At this point, Margot, just under her breath, Nadar?
Perhaps, but I assume that there's other gold dragonborns as well, so...
And you sense some weird, almost impatience for Margot as she just proclaims, but what does this mean for the girl?
Not sure yet. Let's keep reading. Perhaps there's more within the book.
There has to be. She said there has to be.
Okay.
Perhaps.
So the third section is the one that you've read already. So that describes his adventure into the Feywild, finding the ship, discovering the body, looking through the window to the other plane of existence. And where that one left off, the writing gets a little scratchy, and we'll say that you guys kind of having enough time to look through the book, the scratchy writing is less of expedience, like writing very quickly because you have to, and more of excitement, as if the author was very excited about what has been happening. So the fourth section, the Empire made it a top priority for me to determine how to recreate the portal, and I eagerly put aside my weapon-making duties to study it. The remnants of the destroyed body were recovered and delivered to my shop, and I began testing with them, comparing it to metals found throughout Exandria being the continent, the world that you live on. Through his new assistant, the gold dragonborn Nadar, they discovered that the metal could only be worked when heated with dragonfire. At first, the fire from a dragonborn was sufficient to test his theory, but the process was slow and cumbersome, requiring dozens of Dragonborn to allow him to work with the metal for only a brief time each day. Not being able to spare that many Dragonborn, they were released from their duty, and at the direction of Prime Arbiter Truscan, hundreds of coals blazing with the heat of dragon fire were obtained through whatever means necessary, and Stallmouse' experiment continued. And Margot, this is what pings for you.
Margot literally just slams her fist down on the table. Like, just at that minute, just like there was no hesitation with that hit. It was loud and abrasive, and it definitely...
You hear a couple cracks on the table.
Like, at this point, she slams her fist down, and you just see her, like, basically slam both of them down. And as she, like, digs her claws into the table, she's like, is that where they've been going? Is that why they've been disappearing this entire time? For this?
Who's been disappearing, Margot?
Margot, like, looks, like, with a mix of rage, fear, and confusion, just straight at Jules right in the eye and goes, my people.
Can Nebula make an insight check right now? Because I, as a player, have just picked up on exactly what that translates to, but I want you to let me know how Nebula would go about deciding what he's about to say.
Sure. I'll let both you and Jules make an insight check to kind of to try and understand the anger behind Margot.
That's a 17.
17?
12 plus 2, so 14.
Jules, it's a bit tough for you. You're trying to figure this out, but like Margot's anger is something that's come to the head several times. And you're not dismissing it by any stretch. This is definitely more angry than she's been in the past, but at the same time, it's something that you don't really understand.
Yeah.
Nebula, specifically in your case with your background, knowing the mention of coals blazing with the heat of dragonfire, those are things that are taken, not made.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bit of a click that's starting to hit of why Margot always refers to herself as Margot the Dragon.
And Nebula will definitely like look at Margot, and again, he's interested, but he's still looking for something in this book. And so he's like, that is on hold until I finish getting what I'm here for. But he's always sent somewhere to either deal with something or help someone. And he's now debating on, it could be any of these people, but the spider web is connecting slowly.
At this point, Margot is just, we have to keep reading. Keep reading. Keep reading!
Right.
Jules will take a second and just look at Margot and try and figure her out for a second and try and understand, but then just kind of, okay, we'll keep reading.
Okay. So the final entry is a shorter one. I've become obsessed with this technology, fusing these rare metals with my own weapon designs, testing on willing subjects. Who are these metallic people? Where are they? How do I get more of them to continue my work? Continuing to read on, Stallmouse believed that he had all he needed to open another gateway into this clockwork realm. That's what he began to refer to it as the clockwork realm. And he had set up a demonstration for some of the leaders of the Empire, using his own designs and the last of the materials that he had recovered, along with the blue gem. The journal closes with, "This will be my greatest success yet." And that's dated about 2.5 years ago.
He calls it the clockwork realm.
Correct.
Is that his own that's his own name, right? Or I guess, do I make a check right now to see if that's a legitimate name?
Racking your knowledge, I'll say go ahead and make a history check.
That is just a flat 10.
Flat 10. It's a name of his design. Based on the design of the individual that he found, the clockwork nature of the city that he saw. You also kind of tie that into the clockwork style creations, the spiders and the dog that he had made. That the clockwork realm is essentially just a moniker that he referred to it as, instead of just calling it the other place or something like that. So that's where the journal closes with, "This will be my greatest success yet."
At this point, Margot, at reading the greatest success, she just whispers that out loud. The greatest success. And she flips the table, just in sheer rage. She goes, "Greatest success at what point? At what point? Destruction?
Margot.
Slaughter?"
Margot, I believe that this was not a success. I think that this is what led up to the accident.
They don't know what they're messing with. I say this with every ounce of sincerity I can muster. They do not know what they play with.
And sort of absentmindedly, he's in his own thoughts, but he's hearing everything. And Nebula is just sort of like, the table got flipped, and I don't think Nebula reacted to that because he's still processing, because he's on to something. And Nebula just says out loud, "No, they really do not."
I wonder how many they had to cut open for this stupid mission. How many did they rip from their home for this? I'll kill them. I will kill them.
Nebula is going to make the motion to Jules again.
Okay. Jules will open Awakened Mind.
And he's going to say, "Connect us all, but before you do,
I can only connect one person at a time to myself."
Then relay the message. But before you do, know this. The coals of dragon fire are not something that you find. They're something that you take from dragons at a great cost. Perhaps even the ultimate cost. And correct me if I'm misspeaking here, Jordy. Okay.
Accurate.
I've heard them referred to as the heart of dragons, but many names. The coal of dragon fire. It costs. It sounds like many a dragon. And our Margot is especially perturbed by this. Our mysterious, unknown Margot. Keep that in mind.
I will.
Now, please pass the message on. Rage or not, we cannot guarantee we're not being listened to. Be careful, even if what you feel is true, and I do not disagree. Be careful what we say out loud.
Jules will relay that word for word back to Margot. Preface, Nebula wanted me to pass this along.
Margot, you would hear that. I want you to make a wisdom saving throw for me.
Which she has advantage on.
You do, technically.
Watchers will. To fucking stay cool.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God, because I only rolled a 4 on that one.
See how this
But wait,
goes?
you were saying something, Jordy?
No, yeah. It's an advantage, yeah.
Well, wait, hold on. I want to be sure that we're fair on this. Let me double check the length of time I have on that, because I activated that when we were starting.
Yeah, so that's been
That's
over an
true.
hour and 20 minutes ago.
Okay, hang on. This is probably this is probably gonna be something that's like only 10
Because I'm saying right now, you're either giving me a 5 or a 12.
Oh no.
Either way.
Nope, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Margot, you hear these words, and it's like trying to put out a fire with a tree, like a tree branch. Like, it's just not doing anything.
So at this point, if you guys remember, the tendrils that like came up from Margot's chest when she did the dragon breath attack, you see them slowly like pulse beneath her, heading up towards her face and around her eyes. And she like looks at them both. She goes, "You don't understand. Should I explain it?"
And Nebula is trying to get the point across to speak coded. And so instead what he'll do is he will shape change himself to gain scales and a longer snout, like a dragonborn snout, because he can't mimic like he can't make a race that doesn't like exist. Oh, could he say would he have seen a half dragon? And if so, he would rather try to turn into a half dragon right now, because that is an actual race that exists, or at least it could.
Yeah, so it's a race that you've heard of, and I made a roll, and you have not encountered one, so you don't know exactly what they look like. You could make an approximation of what you think they look like, of something between like a dragon and a dragonborn, but it wouldn't be a full half dragon.
Yeah, and so he just basically wants to do not a dragonborn. He's going for most of one, but the one particular thing he's going to do, especially because he's seen Margot, is he's going to mimic the wings that do not work, and he's going to add a tiefling's tail. Does Margot have a tail?
Margot does, but it's definitely more draconic than tiefling.
Well,
like, it has like scales
tail
with like the dorsal like little spikes.
He wanted to add a tail specifically because Dragonborn do not have them.
Dragonborn tails are just not prehensile. They're just like a flap of skin, essentially. They just drag on the ground behind them. Whereas actual dragon tails are something that they can choose to move.
Okay. Well then, yeah, he's going horse for this subtle like look of, he's trying to look first like a Dragonborn, maybe like Nadar. He'll sort of take on that form, and he's like, "You don't need to explain here. I believe I understand the difference." And then he'll, from Nadar, gain Margot's wings and her tail. And he's trying to convey, I think I understand that you're not like what Nadar is.
Okay. Margot, I'm going to leave this to you as to how you react to this. You see Nebula's familiar visage change into that of Nadar at first, and then begin to shift again. So what would you like to react with?
At this point, Margot sees this all happening, and it's all rage. It's all just blind. There's no thought behind it. She just thinks you're mocking her.
Okay.
by changing into something that you're obviously so not, that you really truly do not understand.
Give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
Nebula, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw for me.
Yeah, sure. It's a 6. He fails.
Margot, with you summoning the dragon fire into your throat and having this exclamation of you don't understand, you don't know, and then Nebula, you look at this and it's you inherently feel no, and you kind of just let that get a little bit higher up into your throat, and you just instinctively and burst out in front of you. I need you to roll damage for me on this. It'll be 2d6 fire damage.
Oop. That's a 4 and a 5.
All right, Nebula, take 9 points of fire damage as Margot unleashes the breath weapon and kind of like snaps it off, kind of half not realizing what she's done, but you do take the full damage from the breath weapon as it kind of cinders in her mouth still.
Margot, like, as like the flame tendrils come out and she like sees what she's done, you don't see regret whatsoever. All you hear is like the slow faint like crackle and hissing sound, like as it like escapes her mouth. And she's like, dragon coals are more than just a soul and a heart. They've burned for eons since the beginning. When you kill a dragon, the soul coals still burn, but when you rip that out, you're tearing apart everything of that beast. If you take out the coal of a dragon, you're giving it no ability to keep going. It is powerful and it has burned for years. There is one within me. I've seen them ripped from people before, and I did not understand why until now. You cannot stop me.
I don't think we want to stop you. I think that both Nebula and I agree that this isn't a good thing that has happened. But to be effective, we can't blow up.
And at this point, you kind of see the tendrils still like pulse in and out around her eyes, of like the fire still kind of burning underneath. And they slowly like drip underneath her skin. And she's like, the one thing I can take away from this is I understand why they were taken from me. But that doesn't excuse it. I won't excuse it until I get them back for what they've done to me.
I can understand that. But for now, we have to keep our heads level.
I'm sorry.
Say, wake up!
I'm not asleep. I'm just listening.
No, dude, you were like...
You were nodding!
You were full on nodding.
Hailey's having a moment. I'm just letting her do her thing.
Sorry. Oh, God.
I was already taking RP to a whole nother level. Like, your room.
Hailey, you broke me. I just saw you just...
Because I was like so serious. Because I'm like looking at European Corso, and then there's Saint right next to them, and I like see him just go.
Sorry, guys. Galahad had to shut down for a second. System reboot. All right.
Centuries rest.
All right, we're professionals. We're professionals. We do this for a living. Here we go. Okay. All right, we're back in.
Okay. Yeah, the big emotional thing. Dragon's missing. It means a lot.
So, with the yeah, go ahead.
I would for sure say reflexively, Nebula would have gone for Hellish Rebuke as he takes damage, and he would have like caught it and just like recoiled it back in to not send it back, because this is not an enemy moment. But reflexively, like it like went to shoot, and he's like,
Yeah. Also reflexively, Jules stepped between the two of them.
Yeah.
Just as...
And you kind of caught the tail end right as Margot just kind of snatched her mouth closed again to
But hey, on the plus side, you guys know what a dragon coal is. Yay!
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
The more you know.
Depression. So,
It's that trauma, baby.
so, having read through the journal, taken an hour and a half to finish off all of the installments of it, Margot, you're kind of understanding a little bit why Gilda wanted you to read that. She knew. She was conscious enough. She knew what had happened and wanted to make sure that you understood her anger.
Oh god, I'm adopting this child. The child.
Back, and now we've got a teenager.
I don't get emotional attachment, she says, as she immediately gets an emotional attachment. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. How are you?
And at this moment, Margot looks over at like the strewn documents, like from the table that she flipped, like the claw marks, and like feels the tension in the air, like as like the steam still hisses from her mouth. And she like looks at Jules, and she's like, before that girl left, before Gilda left, she told me to read it. She knew that whatever was in that book pertained to me.
She definitely knows a large amount of information. I
know how that girl feels.
unfortunately, in some regard, I think we all might, for our own different reasons.
And she's going to look over at Nebula. She's going to be like, again, I can't tell whether you don't understand or if you're mocking me.
I believe the time for mocking was over when this book was written. This place may be in grave danger.
We may need to think a little bit closer as to who we're working for and what they're doing.
And if what they're doing is wrong, how to go about writing that.
We should gather our party and discuss this before we return this book in the morning.
Agreed.
And Nebula will get up to go get the rest of the group.
Okay. So we'll say at this point, now, would the group include Les?
Well, before the rest of the group gets back, Jules wishes to talk with Margot real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So we'll just...
Yes, Nebula would get Les under the idea of Les has worked with these people and knows some stuff. Before they go on that other half of like what we really want to do, he wants info from Les so that the party can weigh their options.
Gotcha. That works for me. Okay. So while you're ferrying off to go to each of the individual rooms to try and get whoever you can, it has been a moment at this point, so we'll come to you with that one in a bit. So Jules and Margaret.
It seems as though our relationships to family are significantly different. But
You're running from yours, aren't you?
Yes, I am, but in a way, they're always with me. And I don't mean that in a fictitious sense. I mean that in a literal sense.
At that minute, like, Margot clutches where she mentioned before about the dragon's coals, like, to her own, like, heart. She goes, I wish with every fiber of my being I could say mine were still with me.
My abilities, and she kind of just lets her hands radiate that same bluish, greenish, spectral magic, come from them. Come from my ancestral line. We pass down our magic in a way that some would look down upon. We make a pact with our ancestors, and they join to us and pass on their power. This wasn't really an option to opt out of that.
I tried to pass on my power, and for a minute, one sweet moment, I succeeded before it was taken from me. And they continuously keep getting taken, and I don't know how much more I can witness. It seems
with the rest of the group's help, you won't have to witness more.
You may not be my family. You may not be one of what I am. But I will say this, and she leaves to turn around through the door. You're under my watch, and I will absolutely not let anyone take anything from me ever again.
Before you go, this may not be the best of times, but this letter that I was given by Balajan, it has word of a red dragonborn from Ashkeeper Peaks.
I haven't heard that place in a long time.
Jules will hold the letter out to Margot.
At this point, Margot reaches over and takes it from her.
Cool. I will message you with what it says written.
Okay.
I have been given a task. A task that I complete, or I'm forced home. And I do not wish to be forced home.
At this point, Margot's going to look up and down at Jules to try and gauge how much this actually means to her.
Go and make an insight check.
15.
15?
Mm-hmm.
Jules is very, very blank and very matter-of-factly stating these things, but also there's a very large hint of sadness and despair.
So Margot's going to look at the letter and look to Jules, and she's just going to be like, there's darkness under this, isn't there?
Under my family?
Under this whole situation?
Yeah, it seems that there is.
It seems you and I may be grieving for different reasons. And at this point, Margot wants to open the letter in front of her to like read it out and see like what exactly Jules gave over to her. And then she's going to look at Jules for her reaction to Margot reading the letter.
It's just blank trying to read you.
The letter's pretty clear. Outlines a task that has to be completed. A red dragonborn from the Ashkeeper Peaks has come in, and a local official believes that it's been killing off local people of influence. Nothing really resonates with you personally, but you understand the importance of getting this done from Jules, specifically because of the last line, effectively stating that if you don't do this, I won't be the only person coming after you, and the other ones that come after you might not be as compassionate as I am, hinting at the fact that they might kill all of you just to bring her home.
So Margot reads this letter at this insistence. She just goes, to think this ragtag group of people have gotten themselves into such a sticky mess.
Yeah. The Fowler family is not one to fight against. They are extremely powerful and influential throughout the land.
And at this point, Margot goes around and looks straight up and down at Jules, like straight in the eyes, and be like, and what will you do?
Given what?
What actions will you do? You know that I cannot be stopped.
I can only control my actions, and I don't agree with my family. I don't want to do this task, but it seems I have to in order to continue operating with the discretion I have now. But I won't.
Jules Hendricks.
The rest of the party, if it's...
Jules Hendricks. Never let destiny push you into a corner. If you seize it, take it, regardless of who stands in your way.
It's not now. It's not my life on this plane that I'm worried about. It's after. I can do whatever I wish now. I could run away. I could go to the other side of the world. I could jump planes. I could do nearly anything, and there's only a limit to what my family can do. But with this power, there's a cost, and that cost is that when I die, I become a part of our family patron. And my power goes to the next, and the next, and the next after that, until this cycle is eventually broken. And unless I can permanently break away from this, there's no running from my family.
Is breaking away what you want to do?
Yes.
Then do it.
It's not as easy as that.
Has anything ever been easy in this life? Will that stop you? Will you simply lay in the dirt and let it ramrod you?
No.
Will you just give up?
No, I won't.
You're strong, Jules Hendricks. Break the chains of destiny that tie us to these miserable existences and make our own future.
Let's do it together, both you and I.
I grant you my protection, Jules Hendricks. As long as you admit that you're willing to work towards solving the mystery of why they take my kin.
Of course. I don't want evils to be done in this world. It's wrong, no matter what the outcome is. And while it seems that Stallmouse was taking these coals in order to complete a goal of sorts, the harm that he did in order to complete it doesn't outweigh that.
Before I retire for the night, I say this. Let's find a way to break the chains of this destiny. Both you and I.
Yeah. Let's.
And that note, Margot kind of nods and then exits the room.
So as Margot is walking out, Jules, you kind of just take a second and reflect a little bit, and you start to hear a familiar voice. And you hear Adelante come through. And I'm proud of you, Juliana. Jules. I'm proud of you. So, with that wrapping up, Nebula, go ahead and make... So, questions for you guys. Thalen, Galahad, and Les. Did you guys head back to your room, eat your food, go to sleep, or did you stay up for a little bit? We'll start with Thalen.
I would have gone to my room, but stayed up, working with the Shaman's Claw, because I believe this is the first time I've had time to just kind of look at it. So I'll just kind of tinker around with it and mess around with it, and I'll also start engraving into it a little cobalt picture if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead and make a dexterity check for me.
Perfect.
And add your proficiency modifier, actually.
Okay. That is a 16 plus 4, and plus 2. Okay, that is an 18.
18? Yeah, you got a pretty accurate little description. You know, you've got the better part of an hour in a very nice warm room. You've got all the tools at your disposal. You're able to make a pretty accurate little depiction. All right, so you'll be awake when Nebula will come to your door. Galahad, what about you? Did you want to head straight to sleep, or was there something you wanted to do and you were going to stay up for a little bit?
Galahad will momentarily contemplate getting into the bed. Probably decide that it's a terrible idea and they'll probably trash it unintentionally because the armor does not come off, you see.
From the sheer weight. I will admit, it looks sturdier than most beds you've seen.
Oh. Galahad will tentatively sit in the middle of the bed.
So you kind of put a little bit of a weight onto it. You hear a little bit of a... But it does appear to be holding your weight. So you're able to crawl over into the middle of it. So, yeah. We'll say, in your case, go ahead and make a perception check for me. As Nebula kind of knocks at your door. Because it's been a fair bit of time.
Oh, I was gonna try something.
Oh yeah, what do you want to try?
I'm going to take out the pipe of remembrance.
Okay.
Oh.
And I'm going to light it and see if anything happens.
Okay.
Oh my god.
This is the lore drop episode.
This is it. Come on.
So
everyone come out of the shell.
This long, delicate wooden pipe features a bowl made from a smooth river stone. When the pipe is lit, smoke exhaled from it does not dissipate, instead lingering around the bearer. After 10 minutes, the smoke forms moving shapes that reenact the bearer's most impressive and heroic achievements for 5 minutes. When this realistic performance is complete, the smoke dissipates. So, you take the 10 minutes, you focus on it, and your most heroic moments are ones that you've experienced in the last few days. And at first it brings you a bit of happiness. You think about it and you look back on the times that you've stepped in, the things that you've done to keep your allies alive and focus on their well-being. And then as it's kind of wrapping up and that's the end of the heroic moments, you have a very sudden realization that if those are the most heroic things you've done, what had you done before?
Well, it was worth a try. Thanks anyway, Nadar.
Put the pipe away. I just sit on the bed, staring at the ceiling.
Alrighty. So, with that, go and make a perception check for me.
2.
2. You, with your use, you're so used to just sleeping on the floor and like kind of understanding that this is your lot in life. The fact that you kind of sink into this bed, and probably a little deeper than you should, but it's still holding your weight. You are out. There is nothing, like a bomb could drop in the next room and you are not waking up. You are out for the evening.
Falling rips are harsh.
It ain't easy being this dummy thick. It takes a lot of energy.
Alrighty, so Nebula, you are able to rouse Phelan. You are unable to rouse Galahad, however. Les, what about you?
So for me, as I go to my room and kind of start to hunker down for the evening, I'm going to kind of put my Triton to the side, start to unbuckle the studded leather chest piece from my body, and the big long sort of studded leather arm bracer that goes down the other side of my arm. And as I sort of take it off gingerly, the dragon scales that have been like climbing up the other side of the arm that's kind of laid bare as the skin's kind of a little more lighter hue, as it's kind of adjoining up to the clavicle area that's kind of hidden from underneath the studded leather armor. There's this definite kind of irritation, like this painful scarring as it's kind of climbing up to up the neck and clavicle. He kind of just puts it on his hand for a while, and it's just kind of aching, and he kind of moves the shoulder around, and he's gonna sort of kneel down on his knees, and almost in like a sort of meditative prayer-like fashion, and just kind of concentrate for a moment, very, very hard, as little adornments in the room just start to kind of float up into the air. He's gonna try to connect with Ostilian.
Okay. Go ahead and make a, because this is your new way of connecting. So go ahead and make a, because your spellcasting ability, make it a spellcasting ability check with intelligence. So roll a d20, add your intelligence modifier.
Okay.
Interesting. I'll just write that down.
What is that name? Ostilian?
Oh, got a 7. So
7. Okay. You're pretty
8, 9,
excited. 10. Given the situation, given the people in the room, the new task assigned to you of joining up with these people, finally getting a chance to get outside of Upperduke, it's a bit tough to kind of quiet your mind enough to gain that connection for the evening. It's something you know that you can do. You've done it before, but today especially is a bit too much of an excitable day, and you feel like maybe in another day when you can relax a little bit more and take more of a time to focus, you'll be able to create that connection again.
Okay. So as I kind of quiet my mind, I just go to the bed for the evening.
Yeah, well, it would actually be that, like, as you're kind of coming to a close of the meditation, you're like, maybe not. Today just isn't going to be the day. You just hear a at the door from Nebula, and it just fully snaps you out of it.
And all the things kind of fall down to the ground. Go, yes?
Les was wanting to go over a few things for you, if you're still up and about.
Yes, 1 second. Then he'll go and put the studded leather chest piece back on with the arm hiding that kind of painful crawl of the dragon scales going up there. Then open up the door.
Yeah, just went over the book and wanted to go over some stuff. Seeing as you're going to be in our group and part of the team, I figure it's best for us all to be on the same page. Perhaps you could fill us in on a few things.
Yes, of course. I'll try to answer what I can.
Great. Well, yeah, we'll head on back to Jules's room. That way we can all chat together. And Phelan's in tow.
All right, I love that book, man. Let's do it. And then just like follow him.
Alrighty, so you guys start walking down the hallway, and you see, with the amount of time that Margot and Jules have been talking, and Nebula, you kind of going around to the different rooms, we'll say you see Margot probably about halfway down the hallway, outside of Jules' room, walking away, but looking quite determined in the walk, and understanding it's not worth bringing her back.
Yeah.
Alright, so the three of you head into the room. Jules, you're greeted by Phelan, Nebula, and Les. No Galahad in sight.
Yeah, Jules, while momentarily left to her own devices, was just sitting on the edge of her bed and taking a moment to process everything, and hears the knock on the door and stands up and centers herself and walks forward and opens the door and says, "Come on in."
Do I notice any sort of that dishevelment in her demeanor? And yeah,
I would say no. Jules had enough time to be able to compose herself before pulling anything up.
It's the same blank stare that Jules had on
face
the entire time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Alrighty. So, four of you inside the room now. Jules and Nebula, you've read the journal. Galen and Les being brought into the fold. Go for it, guys.
Where's the robot in the Dragonborn?
Robot seems to be preoccupied, taking a rest, or going over things. We'll get him caught up to speed later.
What?
As for Margot, I'm not sure. I believe I saw her leaving.
Yeah, she needs a minute.
That's fine. Perhaps that'll make this easier, getting you two caught up real quick. So, before we begin, Les, how long have you worked for the Cerberus group?
Jordy, how long have I been working for this?
You've been part of the assembly now for the better part of a year.
Better part of a year.
About 10, 11 months.
10, 11 months.
And we pieced that this was
Are you wearing a wire?
years ago.
I just imagined he's like, I've been, what's my line? 11 months.
Line?
Line?
11 days!
The killing of the dragons happened years ago, right?
Correct.
From what we read in the journal.
The last
Okay.
journal entry in the journal was 2.5 years ago.
Okay, so that's the first thing Nebula wanted to know, is this dude's potential relation to any of the past, and it is too soon for him to have been involved in that, at least based on his answer.
Correct.
And he says, all right, what do you know about them?
About who?
The Cerberus Assembly, your employers, our employers.
Well, the incredibly powerful faction of the Empire. One of the main right hands in that field of expertise. I mean, it's one of the crowning jewels of the entire foundation, really.
And Phelan, I assume about the same? Or what do you know?
I know about the same. I understand the war that's happening between us and, I guess, the Empire and Shore House. I understand the power of the Cerberus Assembly and the mages they hold.
Was there something more specific you were trying to determine?
Yes, but that's neither here nor there, it seems.
I will say, nobody, if you're trying to figure out if they are, I guess, worth following, their hands are as dirty as everybody else. Nobody's hands are clean, so I'm sure there are some secrets we can find. There's always some that we can pick up.
Well said. And admittedly, part of my question is how you feel about following them. But more importantly, I think it's best we understand what lays before us. Jules, Margot, and I were able to go through the book, and we discovered a few key things. One, the presence of some other entity, some other place that Stallmouse Sr. was attempting to...
I believe it was referred to as another dimension.
Yes, I was trying to keep the words a little smaller to not terrify everyone with the most horrifying possible outcome.
Well,
Yes.
It's been a rather long day, so dancing around the point won't get us very far.
Fair. It would appear that another dimension might have been opened, and Stallmouse's goal was to open it yet again. And it sounds like he might have been successful through a means of some foreign technology and the death of many an ancient creature.
Ancient creature. Does it describe what kind of creature this thing is?
It's said that they needed dragon coals in order to create this portal, which means that unfortunately these creatures in question are dragons.
And you do not get a dragon coal and still get to keep the dragon part.
I see.
So the work that was ordered seems to have cost unknown annihilation to dragons.
Unknown by us, at least. But
Fair.
perhaps known by some.
And Les is kind of like hearing that as you can kind of visibly see just like a, god damn it, like another level that's being sunken into this relationship he has with the assembly. Like he doesn't look approving of it. He looks very much like fucking Jesus Christ, not this too.
I'm sure this is not what we are asking, but bringing this up to the assembly right now would probably do us no good, just because I feel they are the kind of people who would say innovation will come at a price, whatever that may be, and it doesn't look like any of us are willing to pay, I guess, the blood price. And that's how I think it should be. No innovation is worth a life, but the Cerberus Assembly are probably not on the same page as us on that.
I would agree
As
with
we
you
will
on
see.
all points.
So what do we do then?
Les?
Can I take a quick look around the room just to see if just a once over, if I can see any sense or any inkling of someone staring into this room, or did they already do
Nobody did anything. Go ahead and make a perception check for me.
Excuse me for one moment. I'm gonna
Nice.
mute myself.
Natural 17.
Oh, that's pretty good. I thought that was
Perception plus 3.
Hey.
That's a unnatural 20.
Dirty 20. Okay.
Alright, let's see how big of a shit we're.
You don't see any person standing inside the room. There are a lot of nice artwork pieces around the room. There are a few gaps in artwork pieces. You don't see anyone per se, but you kind of identifying that, recognize that there's a pretty good chance somebody's listening.
We going fucking brown. We gonna get fucking Cerberus white.
So having that kind of not saying anything verbally out as a dissatisfying reaction to them talking, it was just mainly facial and just like a demeanor.
Yep.
Looking over at the walls, knowing this place. And I don't have anything on me right now. Actually, are you, is one of them holding the diary or the journal?
Jules, would you be holding it or would it just be on the table?
I would have probably slipped it into my bag at this point because
I would have thought you would have hidden it.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, so you don't actually see the diary or the journal in the room anywhere. They're just talking about it.
Damn. Okay. So after seeing that, I'll kind of just go around and just be like, ugh. But think perhaps friends, and then just kind of stretch my arms out and kind of sidle my way so that my back is against, are there art pieces all around this wall, or is there only on one side of the wall?
The art pieces are on 3 of the 4 sides. The one with the bed frame doesn't really have any art around it, but you notice that on the 2 sides of the room, so there's the entrance and then the far wall, on both sides are art pieces with those kind of similar gaps.
That's how we know we fucked up.
I'm just trying to figure out a way that I can say this without giving myself away.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you don't know about the awakened mind.
No, I don't. And I don't. I'm just looking at my stuff. I don't have anything that I can be kind of sneaky about. I was like,
one thing I'll say, just in general, because we didn't really have this conversation. You're level 4, you would have access to Cuillin ink if you needed it. It would be kind of a part of your adventuring pack. All of you technically kind of just have access to general stuff like that. So.
Okay, so I want to try something then. I'll let you. I'll pull a Corso and throw a thing at you.
Yeah.
And let you judge if it works or not.
We'll see if it sticks. What's up?
Yeah. If I do have the ability to have a pen on me.
Yep.
Writing utensil. Just after hearing that, it's been friends, this is a lot. Trust me, we are in times of war, and sometimes in war, desperate measures must be taken to win on both sides. The Kryn are not innocent in these dealings as well. I'm sure you have heard stories. There are things that they have done. And as I just kind of am rambling on, kind of diffusing, trying to physically, trying to diffuse their ability to believe in the Cerberus, to try to quell them of things are fine, man. It's wartime. Things get crazy. As that happens, because I can use this once per short rest as one of my new fancy abilities.
Yeah.
As you say that, Jules is just going to awaken mind to Nebula and be like, perhaps we should not have included Les Paul in this conversation.
I want to use my telekinetic movement.
Yep.
That I can move an object or creature with my mind as an action, you can target one loose object that is large or smaller, or one willing creature other than yourself.
Yep.
You can see the target goes in 30 feet. You can move it up to 30 feet. Alternatively, it's a tiny object. You can move it to or from your hand. So what I want to try to attempt is kind of saying this and kind of getting my back and my positioning in a way that's kind of angling where most of the art is, and just try to subtly wave my hand with the pen over to some sort of parchment or anything that it can kind of write on, that I'm kind of blocking, whether it's like, if I have a charcoal pencil on a piece of wood or anything.
Yep.
And just try to subtly get that to write eyes everywhere.
Eyes everywhere? Okay. Go make a spellcasting ability check. Roll a d20, add your intelligence modifier.
Yo, what the fuck kind of fighter are you, Les Paul? I love it.
Oh, come on, baby. Oh shit, that didn't go.
Back on 20.
The thing. Come on.
You got this, baby. You got this.
Natural 19.
Plus
That's
your
a 22.
intelligence. That's a 22. You find a way with a Cuillin ink. You don't have any parchment, but you're kind of like, I can do this. And you look at the floor, and the floor is quite nice. Could probably be painted over. And you just start writing on the floor, eyes everywhere. And all of you see this in the room, as Les is kind of purposely standing in a slightly awkward position against one wall. All of you instinctively go, oh fuck. And that's
Nebula
where we pick up next week.
Oh! You pulled a me!
I pulled a you.
Damn it! And I fell for it.
So, ooh. So, my first session in the DM chair. How's everybody feeling? You good? Anybody want to cry?
Hey, Jordy, how you going to assassinate us with the service assembly next session?
Who said anything about assassinating you?
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, that's the expression. There you go, Hales.
Beg pardon? Yeah, no, exactly. The moment I realized that we didn't check,
Yep.
Nebula was immediately like, because as soon as he's going to say that, we'll talk about it next time. But I know exactly who Nebula's worried about right now. Who is on their own.
So, hope you guys had fun tonight. We went a little bit long. Thank you so much, chat, for sticking around. We love you guys. We appreciate you with all the support, all the subs tonight, all the follows.
Thank you, Jody Rose, for a great debut.
It feels good to be back in the chair. It's like I am an RP player or DM every once in a while, and today was like a let's get some shit hashed out and tie all the webs together.
I am so mad at myself. I'm so mad at myself because we tried to be subtle at the beginning, but then we kind of threw it all out the window all of a sudden, and I completely.
Should I tell you guys what my subclass is now instead of just dragging?
Oh yeah. Oh, so by the way, for everybody in chat, this is a picture of Les. We've got it in the center of the screen. You guys can take a look at him from top to bottom. This is what he looked like with just the cloak kind of covering it a little bit. Bad fucking ass with that eyebrow.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I had picked a class before that I wanted to try out, and it didn't really work. So I went back to my roots as this character is traditionally a fighter first. He is a Skye warrior fighter subclass.
Tasha's
awesome.
New subclass.
Let's fucking go.
Super cool. Kind of like a nice little mixture of sorcerer into fighter, but not having to lose all the armor and all the weapons.
Yeah, so he's got a few psychic abilities that he can imbue for his attacks and cool things for RP and stuff, and that was one of them, telekinetic movement. The Force, baby.
Yeah, you literally have the Force. It's awesome. All right, well, thank you so much to the players. Love you guys. Thank you for letting me be your DM, because that means so much to me, and it's like a massive honor to be able to sit at a table with all of you.
We look forward to many more goddamn adventures.
The next ones will be lighter, I promise. Today was just we had
look
to get
forward to adventures if we survive through them.
Yeah, today was just a rough one.
This
We
is
had
a
to
great
close off some stuff.
start to a new arc. That's
Well,
awesome.
that's the thing is several arcs. You got a bunch of directions you can go. You've got the girl. You've got Jules' thing heading south. You've got the incorporation with Nadar if Odin is ever available again.
We've got being murdered.
You got
Don't forget
being
about
one of
that.
them going to die tomorrow. It's great.
Just the dragon alone.
Dragon.
Or the
Hey,
I don't
Jordy.
know Warforged with a gem in his chest
Yeah.
that matches the
Yeah, it's
portal that
whack,
they
bro.
spent 3
Yeah,
years
it
trying to
matches.
build.
Jordy.
Yeah. Anyway, what? Yeah. Sorry.
Zoom chat or Telus chat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
will do.
Wow.
Yeah. So it feels great
So
to be
there's
back in the chair.
multiple reasons all of us have a good giant bounty on our heads for various
Various reasons.
Exactly.
little morsels.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys again to the chat. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Congratulations again to the winner tonight, who was somebody I can't remember. Grey Fox, right?
Great.
Grey
Grey
Wolf.
Wolf.
Grey
Grey
Wolf
Wolf.
380.
Yeah, Grey Wolf, congratulations. We're going to get your info and get you involved in that one shot. And until on Monday, when they come back with Beyond the Realms, we love you guys. Stay happy, stay healthy, wash your hands. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.